Exergen thermometers are the smart choice when selecting a thermometer. With children back at school, keeping them healthy is important. Got a fever? Stay home. To detect fever accurately at home, you need a clinically accurate, fast, and non-invasive thermometer. The Exergen thermometer is backed by over 100 clinical studies. Accuracy matters. Be smart and safe. Measure accurately with Exergen thermometers. Available at Walgreens. Learn more at Exergen.com.
At Simply Safe, our award-winning home security has advanced sensors, HD cameras, and now this 24/7 live guard protection. Only from Simply Safe. Monitoring agents can see and speak to intruders through our indoor camera to help stop crime in real time and for fast police response. Now get 45% off any new system with Fast Protect monitoring at simplysafe.com/radio. Advanced home security, 24/7 professional monitoring for less than $1 a day. There's no safe like Simply Safe.
The Vic Porcelli Show.
Democrat Representative Sheila Jackson Lee, she tries to look like this nice lady, right? Wait till you hear her berate one of her staff. That's tomorrow at 9:41.
Weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL.
Are you wanting to improve the look and efficiency of your home? Well, one of the best and easiest ways you can do that, get some new windows. Window World, simply the best for less. You can give them a call today at 314-993-1800. Over 20 years in the business in the St. Louis area, over 70,000 satisfied customers. That's because Window World uses double strength glass, gives it a strength not commonly used in replacement windows. They've got the Good Housekeeping seal of approval. They've got 18 months, same as cash financing. You can get them today. 314-993-1800, windowworld.com. That's windowworld.com.
Hey, Colombo here, reminding you that cybersecurity has never been more important. So you need to ask yourself, is your business prepared for a possible ransomware attack? And if you have any doubt, you need to call the team at ThrottleNet today. ThrottleNet provides world-class managed IT services and IT support to many local organizations, including my family's own small business. They're St. Louis's highest rated and most reviewed outsourced IT company, and there's many different ways ThrottleNet can help with your business's operation and digital protection. Learn more now at throttlenet.com.
Getting a new floor for your home can be intimidating and a little scary, but that's not the case when you go to Michael's Flooring Outlet. Katie here, and my mom and dad used Michael's, and they had a great experience. They've been a locally owned and operated family business for more than 30 years. You want variety? Michael's has carpet, hardwood, laminate, ceramic tile, luxury vinyl, natural stone, and many other options. Shop in-store at one of their 3 locations in Creve Coeur, Dardine Prairie, or St. Peters. Check out everything that Michael's has to offer at igotfloored.com.
As winter approaches and we keep our energy-efficient homes closed, we are exposed to many different chemicals, molds, dust, virus, and bacteria floating throughout the air. Hi, I'm Everett Jones, owner of Jones Air and Water. Since 1995, Jones Air and Water has helped many breathe better and reduce allergens in their home and business. Call Jones Air and Water at 636-899-1040 or visit joneswater.com for more info. You can be a filter or buy a filter. Jones Air and Water on the web at joneswater.com.
News, analysis, opinion.
There's something dangerous happening in America now. The MAGA movement.
What Biden is doing are things that California was doing.
We are going to have to break the backs of the teachers' unions.
This is News Talk STL.
We're thrilled to be here to take back this state from the radical left lunatics.
History's watching.
Our country's being destroyed.
The world is watching.
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
The more people vote, the more engaged the whole mission becomes.
At newstalkstl.com. Big News Saturday on Fox. Dylan Gabriel and the 6th-ranked Oklahoma Sooners face off against the Kansas Jayhawks. Saturday at noon Eastern on Fox.
Now, a look at what's happening from the Fox News Rundown.
Morning, it's Tuesday, October 24th. This is the Fox News Rundown. House Republicans meet again today behind closed doors to vote for the next nominee for House Speaker. 8 candidates are vying for the post. With the House unable to advance legislation, the Senate meets and is expected to take the lead on the Biden administration's request for nearly $106 billion in aid for Israel and Ukraine. And former President Donald Trump comes face-to-face in New York with his former lawyer Michael Cohen today, who takes the stand in his civil fraud trial. I'm Sue Guzman on the Fox News Rundown.
This is the Fox News Rundown.
This is News Talk STL at 101.9, 94.1, and newstalkstl.com.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
It's Tuesday at 4:20. We'll speak with David Stokes on the Rockwood Prop 3. And at 5:20, Lieutenant Colonel Riley Washington, author of Awakening the Voice of Truth.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps. Weekdays at 4 on News Talk STL.
Investment advisory services offered through OWLAFI LLC, a SEC registered investment advisor. Insurance and education services offered through Serenity Wealth Management.
Are you or someone you know providing or managing care for a loved one today? Did you know there could be more cost-efficient solutions for funding long-term care, even those currently living in a skilled care facility today? Financial strategist and long-term care specialist Chris Cooper of Serenity Wealth Management can show you tax-efficient strategies available to help your family manage care concerns, whether planning for the future or managing care for a loved one today. Solutions exist to provide the financial peace of mind you deserve.
Hi, I'm Chris Cooper, and I'd love to send you a free copy of my new book, A CPA's Guide to Tax-Free Strategies for Long-Term Care. You'll learn about strategies to empower you and your family, protect your savings, and make sure your loved ones get the quality of care they deserve.
Request your free copy of Chris's book by visiting SerenityLTC.com. That's SerenityLTC.com.
Get ready for winter by making sure your family is warm and safe when the bone-chilling weather gets here. Mike Ferguson here for Anton's Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Energy Experts. Call them today to get your furnace tune-up. It's only $89, and it could save you hundreds or even thousands by preventing a breakdown. 314-338-3941 or antonshvac.com. Anton's installed our HVAC system, and we love it. Put their expertise and excellent customer service to work for you, just like they did for my house. antonshvac.com.
Hey, I'm here with one of our great friends, Rob Connor from Connor Roofing. You know, I talk about all the time who to trust, and trusting a company is everything to me. Why do people trust Connor Roofing?
Well, 30 years of being an honest roofing company that you can call and get an honest opinion on your project. We've got thousands of customers that are very happy that they did call us.
If there's a storm, the shingles fly off the house, first thing you should do is call 314-375-7475. That's how you get in touch with Connor Roofing, or connorroofing.com. That's CONNER roofing.com.
Bill O'Reilly here, and I'm warming up. Stand by for the O'Reilly Update Morning Edition. But first,
every morning, the president wakes up to a top secret brief on America's biggest challenges. Ever wished you were in the room? Of course you have. I'm Mike Baker, former CIA ops officer, and I'm here to give you the next best thing. Welcome to the President's Daily Brief podcast. Every weekday, I break down the day's most pressing issues in just 20 minutes. Get briefed. Stay ahead. Subscribe now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen.
on this Tuesday, what is really happening on college campuses is largely unknown because the media doesn't cover it, and most Americans don't really care. But higher education has dramatically changed in the USA, as the Israel-Hamas situation has demonstrated. The simple truth is that liberal arts are now literally liberal. The leftist students and teachers hold almost all the power. So I, your humble correspondent, have put together a list of elective courses designed to reflect contemporary reality. And here's what you might expect on campus. Hamas is not so bad, a 3-credit course that chronicles past successes of the terror group. Extra credit if you quote Congresswoman Tlaib. It's a trans world after all. Course includes a field trip to Elliot Page's house. No biology background necessary. Crime, no punishment. A penetrating look at mass incarceration and why holding criminals responsible for their destructive actions is racist. Woke me when it's over. An intense course capturing the true essence of virtual signaling. The final exam will be an essay on how everybody except white people are victims. Now, that's just a short list of possible opportunities on college campuses. And extracurricular activities have also changed with unisex competition and looting if you lose. See you around campus. Back after this. If you thought booking your timeshare was difficult before, you know it's almost impossible now. For more than a decade, Lone Star Transfer has helped thousands of owners legally and permanently get out of their never-ending timeshare fees. Lone Star Transfer guarantees the release of all liability to your timeshare in writing and in a specific time frame. For free, no obligation consultation, please call 855-551-7066 or go to LoneStarTransfer.com. That is the Morning O'Reilly Update. More analysis later on.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 meteorologist Leah Hill. Going to be a bit of a dreary day as we have increasing cloud cover and a few spot showers are possible. Temperatures will still rise to near 80 degrees, and we'll start to see those rain chances increasing overnight to about 30%. Overnight lows reaching 66, and then tomorrow upper 70s, lower 80s. In fact, we're entering this stretch of unsettled weather that will last through Monday. That's your First Alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Leah Hill.
The flow of information this week on News Talk STL.
Take a look at what's going on
to get to the bottom. News, analysis, opinion.
Speaker of the House of Representatives is hereby declared vacant.
Matt Gaetz needs to quit being a chaos agent.
$33 trillion in debt is chaos.
Our investigation is now focused on whether President Biden engaged in impeachable offenses.
101.9 and 94.1.
It's happening for a single reason, because I'm the only candidate they do not want to run against.
News Talk STL. Like and subscribe to us on Rumble. News Talk STL. Having your first cup of coffee? Mike's on his third. This is Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
Let's get to our next guest. I promised you he'd be joining us. He's right here on the line standing by. Jay Green, another one of the fantastic folks at the Heritage Foundation, Senior Research Fellow at the Center for Education Policy. Jay, good morning to you. Welcome to News Talk STL. Thanks for being on with us this morning.
Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. So, Jay, you and some of your colleagues have a new piece out, a new topic that you're focused on. Former campus radicals now teach your children. Jay, we talked about this quite a bit already this morning to kind of prep for this specific interview, because I knew we were going to dive a little deeper. Jay, how about give us the 35,000-foot problem here? And this is just the latest, this issue with these pro-Hamas protests. This is just the latest manifestation of this, right, Jay? I mean, Jay, this has been a problem for decades, hasn't it?
That's exactly right. It's been growing for a long time. We see students on campus behaving irresponsibly, dangerously, indulging in radical ideas. And then we kind of hoped that this would be the peak of their life and they'd go on to living in their mother's basement. But they're not. They go on to successful careers, and the largest group of them go on to teach your kids. 38% of former campus radicals who we tracked went on to education. 28% were in higher education. 10% were in K-12 education.
And Jay, this all started decades ago, right? It kind of came out of it kind of bizarrely came out of the hippie freedom and love movement of the 60s and 70s, but it took a sharp left turn, didn't it, after that? So the liberals of old have become the leftist Marxists of today, haven't they?
Well, there were even violent revolutionaries back in the 60s. So there was Bill Ayers and Angela Davis and others who were involved in violent revolutionary activities, miraculously for their sake, avoided going to jail. Mm-hmm. And then when they failed to take over the country by arms, what they do? They became professors. And Bill Ayers became a professor of education to train teachers. And so their thought was, well, if we can't take over the country by storming the Capitol, actually storming the Capitol with weapons, they would take over the country through your kids, by teaching your kids. And that's kind of the playbook. And now we're seeing multiple generations of radicals going back to campus, going back to K-12 schools to recruit more radicals.
Jay, let's talk about the specifics of the current situation that has blown up, literally and figuratively around the world. Jay, first of all, first thing I think we need to establish, I know our audience knows this, but we'll try to get this into the hands of the some of the liberals who I know listen to our show as well. Jay, there is zero moral equivalency between the Israeli Defense Forces, the IDF, and the Hamas terrorists, right? Hamas are not freedom fighters, are they?
They're not. I mean, the atrocities that were committed on October 7th are almost unspeakable, yet we have to speak of them. It involved mass rape, beheading of children, torturing families together in front of each other, monstrous acts that even the Nazis didn't engage in. And they did this on a large scale, slaughtering over 1,400 Israelis. That's not the actions of freedom fighters. It's not the action of a liberating army. It's the action of monstrous inhumanity. Now, the Israeli Defense Forces are obligated to protect their citizens, and that involves bringing war to Hamas in Gaza. And because Hamas hides behind their civilians, it is unfortunate that civilians are killed, but they're not the targets of the Israeli attacks. Israel doesn't intend to kill civilians. It doesn't torture them. It doesn't behead them. It doesn't rape them. And therefore, there is no equivalency here between Hamas and Israel.
So, Jay, and by the way, folks, we're speaking with Jay Green, who is a senior research fellow, the Center for Education Policy at the Heritage Foundation. He's at JP Green with an E on the end, at JP Green on Twitter. So, Jay, I understand the nefarious motives here, but what would we say to the devil's advocate who says, oh, but AOC and Ilhan Omar and the squad, they're not standing with Hamas. They're saying that we need to stand with the Palestinian people. These are just pro-Palestinian demonstrations. What would you say to that aspect of the argument?
Well, so first, if you're really pro-Palestinian, the first thing you should want is for Hamas to be removed. Hamas is the worst oppressor of the Palestinians, and that they're bringing this unspeakable violence to them by hiding behind them and building their military headquarters underneath the main hospital in Gaza City. And so, these kinds of actions by Hamas are placing the Palestinians in jeopardy. They're also ensuring that the Palestinians will never get the political autonomy they desire, because no one would grant political autonomy to a terrorist organization that rapes and beheads children. Now, as far as the campus protests, they're even worse because they are not even claiming to be merely pro-Palestinian. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. They are pro-Hamas. Mm-hmm. They're chanting, "We are Hamas." And they are putting up images of paragliders to show support for that technique that Hamas used on October 7th to fly into a peace festival, a peace music festival, and slaughter several hundred young people who were attending that music festival. Those are not the actions of pro-Palestinian groups. Those are the actions of pro-Hamas groups.
And Jay, of course they have the right to say these things, but they also then have to deal with the consequences of the actions for which they advocate. Jay, it's amazing, isn't it, that these kids on these campuses who are advocating for these things and engaging in these literally pro-Hamas demonstrations, Jay, they wouldn't be so happy, would they, if we said, okay, we'll give you what you asked for. We'll plunk you down in Palestine under the ruling autocracies of Hamas. Then all these things that they take for granted here in this country as far as free speech rights completely and utterly vanish, don't they?
Well, that's true. I mean, it's bizarre to see groups like Queers for Palestine advocating for Hamas when Hamas famously forbids homosexuality and actually throws homosexuals off of the roof of buildings. And this is a little bit like chickens for KFC. This is not really a very sensible program. And yes, of course, students are free to say ridiculous and even monstrous things because we have freedom of speech in the country. But you are not free from the consequences of your speech. So if you decide to put on swastikas and march around in goose step, you might expect to live your life in your mother's basement rather than going on to some responsible position in society. But the scary thing is that these campus radicals are not going into their mother's basements. They are going on to teach our kids. The schools don't seem to screen or care about this resume of the students. In fact, who knows? Maybe they even like this.
Good morning, Jay. This is Sal Ponticus. It was 40 years ago today, by the way, that terrorists bombed the U.S. Marine barracks in Beirut, killing 241 U.S. military personnel and 58 French soldiers. And I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit about Hezbollah, its connection to Iran, and the terrorism that also sits to the north of Israel.
Well, I think you make an excellent point here, which is that really this is a war between Iran and the West. So Iran provided the logistics and planning and gave the order to go ahead to the Hamas attack on October 7th. And they did the same for the attack on the Marine barracks 40 years ago in Lebanon. Hezbollah and Hamas are both proxies for Iran. They're funded by Iran, and they're given orders by Iran. And so Iran is not just attacking Israel, it's attacking the U.S., it's attacking Europe. And it's been doing this for decades on a low simmer level to see like how much they can get away with without us being provoked into response. And at some point, I think it's going to cross the line and people in the U.S. and Europe are going to wake up to this threat. But at the same time that Iran is taking these violent actions, their proxies on our campuses are seeping into our institutions. So it's almost as if it's an attack from within.
Jay, before we let you go, and folks, by the way, we're speaking to Jay Green, Senior Research Fellow, the Center for Education Policy at the Heritage Foundation. He's got a great article we've been discussing this morning. It'll take you just a few minutes to read it at heritage.org. Former campus radicals now teach your children. So, Jay, what do we do with all this information? We've talked about how we got here, where we are now, the dangers of these points of view. Jay, a lot of us who went to universities and to law schools, I went to both. I spent 10 years in New York. And back when I was there, many moons ago, NYU, Columbia, I went to Fordham, they were okay. We knew they were liberals, but we didn't know that they were going to devolve into leftist, communist, Marxists. These are once mighty institutions that a lot of us are now embarrassed to be associated with. What do we do to turn this giant Titanic of a ship around? What can we do? What should we do?
Sure. And you're right to point out that things have taken a harder left turn within the last decade. I mean, these were liberal institutions, but then the progressives purged the liberals. And the progressives are far more radical and have a different ideology. Now, what can we do? First, we can stop donating. Stop paying for nonsense. Second, we can actually contact our both congressional legislators and state legislators to insist that public appropriations to universities be conditioned on those institutions serving public purposes and not radical purposes. And third, I think with respect to our own children and grandchildren, we need to be very careful about which institutions we send them to, and try to steer them away from being recruited into radical nonsense. I guess last thing I would point out is that our local school districts, we should insist that they vet their teachers more carefully so that we're not hiring radicals into our schools to, again, further poison us and our children from within.
Wise and welcome words indeed. Folks, go to heritage.org for more of that, and at JP Green on Twitter. Jay, thanks so much for the excellent conversation. It was wonderful having you with us here this morning.
Thank you.
Watch us on our live stream using Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter. Get up. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning. news and talk that affects St. Louis.
They've made a mistake of historic proportions. You will exact a price that will be remembered for decades to come.
This is 1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
How'd you like to eliminate your expensive cable bill forever or get new satellite internet where cable can't go? Well, now you can have affordable satellite internet service for a few dollars a day. All you need is a mini satellite installed, and you can have unlimited internet connections wirelessly in your home or office. And no cable boxes means unlimited connections and no clutter. You can surf the internet or stream any of your favorite television services with no cable. And the best part is, satellite internet service costs only a few dollars a day for your entire home. Yes, fast internet to surf or stream television for a few bucks a day. Call now for free details and learn how to drop your expensive cable bill.
800-696-2871. 800-696-2871. 800-696-2871. That's 800-696-2871.
We are the NFHS. That stands for the National Federation of State High School Associations. But really, what we stand for, together with the MSHSAA, are the 171,000 high school sports and performing arts students in Missouri. And so we stand. We stand for the runners, debate team members, and basketball players. We stand for their coaches, officials, and adjudicators. We stand for the drummers, football players, and actors. We stand for the golfers, singers, and swimmers. We stand as the national leader and advocate for these essential activities and all who participate in them and make them possible, because it is our purpose to ensure that high school students get to play, perform, and compete together. To learn more about who we are and what we stand for, visit nfhs.org.
Columbo and Katie.
These things happen. You can't predict them with specificity, but you can know that they happen. And once they do happen, it is too late to prepare. But even the Israelis, Iron Dome usually protecting all of their towns and cities from most of the stuff that comes in, even they were caught by surprise. The world reminds us to take these issues seriously.
Tony Columbo, Katie Fitzpatrick. Weekdays at 2 on News Talk STL. This news update brought to you by Anton's Plumbing and HVAC. Call Anton's at 314-338-3941 or visit them at antonshvac.com.
Hey everyone, this is State Senator Nick Schroer. I am the host of Stand and Fight every Sunday night. Tune in to us at 8 p.m. Right now, let's hear more of Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show here on News Talk STL.
So we've got all kinds of interesting things going on in the world today. We've got, massive dysfunction in Washington, both in Congress and in the White House. We've got a powder keg in the Middle East. We've got a rise in anti-Semitism, like blatant anti-Semitism, both abroad and at home. We've got an unreliable media that we can't really trust to give us the information we need. And we've got a bad economy. We've got inflation. We've got all kinds of not so cheery things to talk about and ponder. And as I was putting together my outline and my notes for the show today, I was thinking, okay, is there anything positive that we can talk about? I don't know if I really want to go in and talk for several hours about just nothing but bad stuff, but still.
Hi, Susie.
Hi.
Hey, good Tuesday morning to you.
Right.
I've already run out of paper from all the stuff that you mentioned. I'm
know.
jotting it all down.
And I'm kind of an optimistic person by nature, and I tend to not, I try not to dwell on the negative, but it's really hard these days. But I was excited to come in. I was putting everything together, and I thought, wow, this is a downer.
Yeah.
So the good news is that there are going to be some bright spots today. There are going to be some fun things to talk about too, but we do have a lot of serious stuff to get to. I'm Susie Moore. I'm filling in for Mike Ferguson today. Mike is out. What is he doing? Playing baseball or something?
He's doing that baseball thing down in Florida.
Playing the sports ball.
Yeah. Doing the old man baseball. It's a big World Series with teams from around the country. And I think they have another game scheduled today. They beat the Chicago team over the weekend.
I heard you mention that.
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
So
And this is not like a elimination type process. They've got several rounds to go through, I guess.
I think they have several rounds, but it's not a round robin. He said it's
Oh.
set up a little bit differently, and I don't know if it's according to the experience of the players and how young, younger guys as opposed to older guys. But he was really looking forward to it, and I know he's going to have a great time there this week.
Well, I'm sure he is, because I don't think he got to go last year for health reasons and stuff. So I think this was probably something that he's really been looking forward to. And obviously he felt confident enough to turn the keys over and and leave things in my hands and in Tim Jones' hands and Stell running the ship.
And Gabe will be here in a few minutes.
Yes, looking forward to having
He'll be
him
the
here.
bright spot.
He always is. He always is. And you know what? He's such a great person to bounce things off of. And I mean, I could talk with him for hours and hours and hours. So I'm looking forward to having him in studio. We're also going to have some great guests today. We lined up quite a few guests. And so we're going to have fun talking to them. We're going to talk to a couple of my colleagues, Joe Cunningham, who's a fellow editor with me at Red State. He's out of Louisiana. He's a political junkie, like, of course, most of the people that work with me at Red State are. But we're going to talk with him about the dysfunction with the GOP House and also about some other races going on right now. The Louisiana governor's race was actually a bright spot.
It was
for Republicans. And then we've got some other races coming up soon in Kentucky and Virginia and things like that. So we're going to talk with him about that. And then we're going to also talk later in the show to Brad Slager, who's another writer at Red State. Brad is kind of our media guru. He's a Florida man, and he's got this kind of laid back style, but he has this sort of searing wit that kind of pierces through all of the ridiculousness you see coming out of the media, the hypocrisy, the media malfeasance that we're seeing. And so we're going to talk with him a bit about particularly the coverage of the Israel-Hamas war and how so many of the corporate media, the legacy media, just seemingly have gotten it wrong. I mean, and this is supposed to be where they shine. In the darkest times when it's crisis time and there's all these things going on, that's when you rely on traditional media to bring you really important information, and you would expect them to. I mean, I was thinking back to, was it the Gulf War where what was his name? Arthur Kent?
Oh, yes.
Stud.
The correspondent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so you kind of think about those sort of war correspondents and the war coverage as being sort of the pinnacle of journalism and excellence in bringing you this really, really important information, and we're just seeing them botch it.
And here we are. That's 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
That's a little bit hard to comprehend.
Well, you know how I know it was 30 years ago?
Uh-oh.
Because I was in law school.
Oh, my
when
goodness.
that was going on.
Oh, my.
I was still a little liberal. I had a little piece ear cuff that I wore and everything. I mean, I was glad to see the U.S. do well in what we did, but I was, advocate for peace.
Where'd you go to law school?
Northwestern University.
Oh.
And I'm going there this weekend for my 30-year law school reunion.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. And you're going to get the tree colors on top of everything else.
Yeah, it should be pretty.
It should be really nice in Evanston.
Yeah. Well, we're not in Evanston, though. The law school is actually downtown.
Oh, that's right. It's downtown.
Yeah, it's at Lakeshore in Michigan. So,
nice.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting. I have not been back for about 5 years to Chicago, and I know it's changed a little bit, and I'm a little anxious to see how that is. But in any event, I am going there. But you're right. I associate that time period with being in law school. And boy, that was a long time ago.
Can I give you an order for deep dish pizza?
We can talk about that.
Okay.
So
we can negotiate.
In the meantime, the media has really gone into the pits, and the polls. Polls show that. We're also going to be joined by none other than Tim Jones, because why wouldn't we want to talk with him? He's Mr. Speaker. He knows a lot of the ins and outs of all the politics and everything going on. And so when I was planning the show out, I thought, I'm going to see if Tim can come on and join me. Since he's not standing here physically today, can't let him off the hook. I'm sure his mornings are empty if he's not on the radio.
But he's in that morning mode because he did morning radio for a few years.
I know.
So he'll be fine.
I need to borrow some of his energy.
Yeah.
I need some of that.
So do I.
And then we're also going to be joined by a lady that where I work with at Dirk's Fund. You all have heard me talk about Dirk's Fund before. It's the dog shelter, large breed rescue that I volunteer at. It's where I got my old golden retriever, and it's where I got my current golden retriever, Daisy.
Mm-hmm. In Pacific, correct?
In Pacific, Missouri. Yeah, out by you.
Okay.
Yeah. And so we're going to be talking with Linda Harold, and she's going to be talking with us about the organization itself and about a big event we've got coming up in December, our big trivia night, which is important because it helps raise money to help us care for the doggos. And we know they definitely need our help. So stick around, folks. We're going to hit a news break, and then we're going to come back with more for you on News Talk STL 1019 94.1.
When it's important to you, stay informed. It's on News Talk STL.
It was a peace festival. We did nothing to provoke them. The message that I bring to Israel is this: we will always be there by your side.
We're strong here. We're powerful here.
Humanity has to decide: are we accommodating terror or are we fighting terror?
News, analysis, and opinion.
Hamas has to be annihilated.
We need peace. 1019 and 94.1.
Gotta know what's happening.
News Talk STL.
News Talk STL is proud to have Doug Voss as part of our lineup every week. Doug has been a staple on St. Louis radio for many years as one of the leading financial experts in the area. You can hear Doug and Safe Money Radio 3 times every weekend on News Talk STL. And in case you miss anything, you can check it all out at DougVossSafeMoneyRadio.com. What else do our listeners need to know, Doug?
Simply put, I focus on helping pre-retirees and retirees build, preserve, and protect retirement assets, and I've been helping my clients solve their insurance and financial needs for the past 33 years. I also strive to educate my clients on how to prepare for retirement, minimize the impact of market volatility on their assets, and deal with the challenges of increased longevity. Call me today at 844-676-SAFE. That's 844-676-7233.
Doug Voss is a registered representative. Securities offered through DHL Securities, LLLP, member FINRA and SIPC.
Classic Kicks Country is streaming now. Hear all your new country favorites from the 90s.
I should have been a cowboy.
Streaming as it happened in the 90s. Classic Kicks.
Let's go, girls.
Download the Classic Kicks app from the App Store. Online at ClassicKicks.com.
I'll go back.
Or enable the Classic Kicks skill on Alexa.
I love the station.
90s New Country streaming now. KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019 94.1 and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason. As the Biden administration apparently pressures Israel to delay a Gaza ground offensive, Israel continues hammering away at Gaza terror targets from the air. Hundreds of airstrikes overnight. The Biden administration claims to be working tirelessly to locate and free American hostages in Gaza as Hamas continues releasing captives just 1 or 2 at a time.
The National Security Council's John Kirby says the Biden administration is focused on the roughly 10 unaccounted for Americans.
It is literally an hour-by-hour effort here at the White House and at the State Department to find out where these folks are.
Last week, an American mother and her daughter were released by Hamas, thanks in part to involvement from the Israeli and Qatari governments.
White House correspondent Greg Clugston. Holding out the hope of a brighter future for the country, former President Trump has signed up for the New Hampshire presidential primary.
Trump is the first person who has served as president to file paperwork in New Hampshire in person more than once. All candidates are asked to write a message to voters in New Hampshire.
I'll say a simple message. Vote for Trump and solve your problems.
Trump won the GOP primaries in New Hampshire in 2016 and 2020, but lost in both general elections. He talked about high prices and inflation.
We'll get it all straightened out, and we'll get it done quickly.
I'm Ed Donahue.
At least 7 people killed, a massive vehicle pileup along I-55 near New Orleans. Smoke from a marsh fire and dense fog, cutting visibility to virtually zero, triggering a crash and involved some 158 vehicles. The Texas Rangers on their way to their first World Series in 12 years, following an 11-4 blowout of Houston, Game 7 of the AL Championship Series. Watching Wall Street, Dow futures up 120 points, NASDAQ futures 86 points higher. More on these stories at townhall.com.
From director Kevin Sorbo comes Miracle in East Texas. During the Great Depression, two aging con men peddling shares in worthless oil wells find more than they're looking for.
Lotharians.
He's talking about you. A tale of hope and redemption.
A true hand-to-God miracle is what it is.
Miracle in East Texas, starring Kevin Sorbo, John Ratzenberger, Sam Sorbo, and Louis Gossett Jr. Rated PG. Parental guidance suggested. In theaters October 29th and 30th only. Go to miracleineasttexas.com.
Relief Factor, pain relief that's natural, pain relief that works, and pain relief that attacks the source of the pain. That's the experience of tens of thousands of Americans who are taking Relief Factor right now. See their incredible video endorsements at relieffactor.com and then order your 3-week quick starter pack for just $19.95. That's less than $1 a day. Find out if it can work for you like it works for me by ordering your 3-week quick starter pack today. Relieffactor.com, relieffactor.com. Be the next success story.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 meteorologist Leah Hill. Going to be a bit of a dreary day as we have increasing cloud cover and a few spot showers are possible. Temperatures will still rise to near 80 degrees and we'll start to see those rain chances increasing overnight to about 30%. Overnight lows reaching 66 and then tomorrow upper 70s, lower 80s. In fact, we're entering this stretch of unsettled weather that will last through Monday. That's your First Alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Leah Hill.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Rodney and Jen Wallner and the entire Wallner home selling team at Berkshire Hathaway. Call them today at 314-810-SOLD. 314-810-SOLD.
As you know, my friend Mike Lindell has a passion to help everyone get the best sleep of your life. He didn't stop by simply creating the best pillow. Now Mike has done it again with his My Slippers, and the folks at My Pillow are having an early Christmas slipper sale. The original My Slippers regular price is $139.98, but for a very limited time, they're offering these slippers for just $39.98. They come in a variety of sizes and colors. Use a promo code ONFIRE at mypillow.com or call 1-800-645-1392. The My Slippers are designed to be worn indoor and out. They are made with My Pillow foam and impact gel to help prevent fatigue. Plus, they feature quality suede leather. Unlock this special offer and other savings by using the promo code ONFIRE at mypillow.com. Once again, that number is 800-645-1392, 800-645-1392, or you can go to mypillow.com, use a promo code ONFIRE, and get your special discount today.
Free speech is alive and well in America.
Thanks for taking my call.
Right here.
You know what's going on?
Have a great awakening.
You see through the smoke screen.
It's cool to be woke.
News Talk STL.
Until it's not.
News, analysis, opinion. Mike Ferguson.
Are you pretending to be crazy?
Gabe Pfeiffer.
There's something serious I have to tell you about the future.
Get up, can't you hear the alarm?
Get up, St. Louis.
Will you guys knock it off?
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
Get up, this is your cousin God.
Only today you get Susie Moore in the morning, but I am joined by Gabe Pfeiffer, who's here in studio with me. We are here for Mike, who's out playing baseball. Gabe, good morning.
Good morning, Susie. Glad to have you in studio this morning.
I'm glad to be here. Folks, you're listening to the Mike Ferguson Morning Show on News Talk STL 1019 94.1. You know, you can listen to us on the radio. You can catch the live stream on News Talk STL. You can catch us the live stream on Facebook or Rumble or Twitter. You got all kinds of ways to listen to and watch us. So we appreciate you tuning in and hope you'll share with your friends too. Gabe.
Yes, ma'am.
The kids are not okay.
The kids are not okay. I'm very disturbed by what the kids are doing currently.
I'm so glad you're here to talk with me about this because one of the things that I was kind of, pondering, and I've been writing about this. People who listen have probably heard a couple more to the points about this too. What is going on with our colleges and universities these days?
Yeah, I recently just on Twitter came across apparently a study. I'm not sure who did it. When I read the name, it sounded solid. So don't at me about my sources. But one thing that I noticed there was this trend by age as to who felt that Hamas was justified in what they did.
I saw that.
And you saw that. Okay. So 65 plus, we're talking about like 9% of the population. And the thing is, you can always discount about 10% of the population for anything.
Right.
Because there are 10% who think we didn't land on the moon, that that Elvis is still alive. You can say 10% of everybody is kind of all polls.
If there's
You can
0%, it would be kind of creepy.
It would be creepy if everybody, didn't believe the thing. Okay, so that tracks. Okay, so everybody 65 and older are pretty much on track. You get to 54 to 64 or something like that, you got 11%. Okay, it's creeping up a little bit, but it's still around that 10%, still about reasonable. And then you start getting to 23%. And these are like 10-year blocks, 23%, 38%. And currently, 18 to 24-year-olds, I believe, 51% believe Hamas was justified in what they did.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I think I tweeted this out, that's basically a good way to track the ideological capture of our society.
I think you're exactly right. You're exactly right. And yeah, I mean, what mostly accounts for what people in that age group, where they get their information and what shapes their views? Well, college, social media, influencers. I mean, that's part of social media.
Yeah.
But that's where, I mean,
celebrity culture, all that.
I mean, I doubt they're having meaningful conversations with their parents about this, because if they were, they would maybe be looking at it a little differently. But it's really disturbing and distressing.
It's very disturbing, and I think it drives home the fact that I think the right has kind of ceded way too much ground in the realm of cultural influence and kind of sunk all of our eggs into the political basket. And that only works some of the time. And even when it does work some of the time, it doesn't kind of work all the time.
No, you're absolutely right. Well, no.
Is that Ron Burgundy? It's like 34% of the time it works every time. Yeah, exactly. So that's basically what we've been doing. We've got the political panther, going for trying to woo America to our side. And then all the while, the left has been capturing all of the things that drive politics.
Yeah, you got to take a holistic approach. You
Yeah.
can't just take one lane, because sometimes that lane gets blocked.
Absolutely.
It's interesting too. I was listening on the way in. There was a clip with Joni Ernst. And there was somebody else she was talking about. So somebody in the Senate, they were talking about possibly looking at defunding colleges, universities who are not putting a stop to the hate speech. Now, I want to say this. I think it's fine for public universities, for the governmental entities, the legislatures, the people responsible for funding them, to take a look and see if there are issues with the curriculum and there are issues with
what's being taught.
When you get into, okay, they're not putting a stop to this hate speech, I'm kind of a little bit leery of that.
I'm a lot leery of it.
Yeah. I think it's good, well intentioned, and I understand. I mean, it's horrifying right now to see the clips that we're seeing of students chanting from the river to the sea, and in some cases, gas the Jews, death to Israel. Now, I know the gas the Jews thing, I think, was over in Australia, but I wouldn't be shocked if there were some footage of that from here based on what we're seeing. Last night, there were people marching through the streets of New York chanting Intifada.
Yes.
New York, which is the highest Jewish population in the United States.
Yeah. There were a number of Jews who live in New York who were shocked to have to pass through these neighborhoods they've walked the streets of on a regular basis to pass people who are basically calling for the destruction of their family.
Right. Now, I think that there's a sizable segment of the people that are out marching and chanting on the campuses and elsewhere who don't fully grasp what it is they're calling for. It's a conceptual thing. This is sort of the big trendy thing. In 2020, it was the George Floyd stuff. This is now the new, freedom for Palestine, that sort of thing. And I understand that impulse, particularly in young people.
Sure.
It seems like a worthy cause until you really step it back and dissect it. And if you're at the point where you're applauding the butchery and barbarism exhibited by Hamas, and justifying that because you think the people that are in Gaza have been mistreated or are entitled to more land than they have, you're screwed up.
Yeah. Well, and as much as I'd like to be more charitable to the young kids, it's like, okay, they're young and dumb. They're making decisions based on kind of purely emotional arguments that have been pushed on them since they were kindergartners.
Right.
Every time they are confronted on camera, and it's like, hey, don't you know that this is happening and this is happening? They are impervious to facts. They are impervious to the moral arguments being made. That it's like, well, yeah, maybe Palestine should have maybe the Palestinians should have their own state. But do you think that requires the raping and murder of their neighbors? You know what I mean? It's like when you present it that way, it's like, well, they still won't condemn. They still are very reluctant to come out against Hamas. So I have yet to see a clear distinction being made by support for Palestinian quote unquote freedom and support for Hamas butchery. I have yet to see a clear distinction being made between any of those from any corners for years now. So I'm inclined to say your support for the quote unquote Palestinian cause is support for Hamas terrorism.
Yeah, and I think that's a fair argument to make. I do draw the line at saying that I mean, you should be allowed to say it.
Yes, and that in the grand scheme,
saying it,
yes,
but you should be allowed to say it
to the larger issue,
and people should be allowed to challenge you about it. People should be allowed. I mean, that's part of the important. Used to be part of the important work of universities is allowing these contentious even discussions and people to really have their say and work these things out. And so I'm not on board with any sort of governmental, we're going to regulate speech in this manner. And we're falling into that hate speech trap. That is hateful speech.
Yes,
no question about it. But I'm a free speech purist. In fact, that's one of those things that this past few weeks I have tested me on, tested the limits. I mean, I'm out there front and center, always on the free speech kick. I'm like, okay, do I really believe that? am I wavering? No, I'm not wavering. I don't like hearing such hateful things. I don't like seeing young people basically calling for the extermination of other people. I think it's disgusting, but I don't want them to be prevented from saying it.
You know what? When you're on a campus situation, and I'm thinking back to my days at SLU. I don't know how it was for you guys if you actually lived on campus. I was on campus for 5.5 years in the dorms, and I know you've got sorority and frat houses, etc., and they're all surrounding a campus. You're sort of in a closed-in society.
It's true
for much of the year.
You are in a little bit of a bubble there,
and with your classes and your roommates, etc., you're in a constant influx of information that just it
reinforces
exactly
the same stuff.
It reinforces everything all the time, and unless you can step away from that somehow and get a different perspective, I can see where you get wrapped up in being involved in something and it totally dominates your mind.
Oh, absolutely. No, I mean, that's just it's a natural order of groupthink, and
Yes.
I think humans are kind of geared towards that. You exist in little communities and you start sort of absorbing what's being shared around you, and if you feel strongly differently, you're either going to be in conflict or you're going to be moving to a different community. So I do think that's a natural order of things, and I think that's a really good point, Stell, that particularly on college campuses, even as connected to the world as everybody is these days with the internet and social media and everything like that, there is that sort of insular, feeling. And there's this there's this hubris, there's this idea that we're insulated from the consequence of this, which is what I went to, what was going off on in my more to the point yesterday, the Harvard student that was saying, well, you can't just fire or not hire 700 Harvard students. That would be a scandal. So that's the privilege we have. And I was so charmed by that. I was like, oh, honey.
You think that's how this works?
No, that's so cute.
Oh, sweetie.
That's so cute. I
wait till you step out into the real world.
Well, I hope that young woman is well, I hope it's not I do hope it's a rude awakening.
Sometimes it needs to be.
Yeah.
I think especially maybe the part of the problem is when all of us have gone through our dumb college kid phase, and we come out on the other side, you look back, and if you were to go back in time and talk to your younger self, you would probably have harsh words for them.
Yeah.
You would probably kick kick that person in the seat a little bit.
Mhm.
So we do that with the young people today, thinking this is going to help you because I know it would help me, but they don't see it that way. They just see you
No.
kicking them. So
Yeah, and it is.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's one of those things where I don't want to be like standing on my porch shaking my cane, like get off my lawn.
Man, I was like that 20 years ago.
You are kind of an old soul, Dave.
Yeah, I am.
Well, you know what? My daughter's an old soul, so
Yeah.
I can appreciate
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
But it really kind of gives you pause. It's like, okay, is this to test the limits
Mhm.
of what you think, people should be, where speech goes, but it really tests the limits of how we exist in a society with one another on these tough issues.
Absolutely.
All right, stick around, folks. We'll be back right after this. 1019-94.1.
This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, 99.1 HD3 and newstalkstl.com.
Can't you hear the alarm? Get up!
Get up. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Get up! What are you waiting for? Get up! Get up!
Well, it's fall, y'all. Time to give Hanson's Tree Service a call this fall, 636-379-1830, 24/7, always available at hansonstree.com. Fall is the perfect time to spruce up and beautify your landscape beds with that fantastic organic mulch in bulk from Hanson's. What else should you do? How about clear out all the overhanging trees, get rid of all the old stumps, generally clean up the homestead as we head towards Old Man Winter. They're standing by to help you today, 636-379-1830 or 24/7, always available at hansonstree.com, hansonstree.com.
Hey, Tony Colombo here for Gutter Pros. When Christine and I bought our new house, we knew the gutters were an issue, and after meeting the Gutter Pros team, we knew that they were right for us. Gutter Pros is your all-in-one gutter service team that offers a variety of affordable solutions, and they even offer free estimates, so there's no cost to you to find out if they are right for your home, just like they were for ours. If you're having a problem with your gutters, contact the Gutter Pros now, because with Gutter Pros, water goes where they tell it to. Call them at 314-656-7195 or visit gutterpros.com.
In a world where heroes walk among us, shines the David Dorn Foundation. Named after a true hero, our foundation empowers those who risk their lives to protect us every day. We stand tall with unwavering dedication to provide our first responders with equipment often not supplied.
But we can't do it alone. We need your generosity of a few volunteer hours to provide our first responders with the tools they desperately need to save lives and keep our communities safe. Visit dornfoundation.com now to be part of our critical progress.
This hour of Mike Ferguson in the morning is brought to you by Stifel. Request a portfolio review from your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Hi, it's Dan Bongino here, and I'm proud to be on News Talk STL every weekday from 11 to 2. Right now, you're listening to Mike Ferguson in the morning.
So, Gabe,
Yes, ma'am.
who are celebrities that you admire?
Wow. Celebrities I actually admire.
Are there any?
Yeah, are there any? I might have to go back. Actually, Keanu Reeves.
Okay.
I really like the way, I am not aware of his political proclivities, who
No,
he
I'm not
votes
either.
for.
Mm-mm.
And I think that's the point. And everything he's ever had to say about any of the prevailing issues was a very neutral but positive message. He's always had. I mean, there's this one clip of him, and I can't remember who it was. Was it John Oliver or one of those other late night fools? And they asked him, "What do you think happens when you die?" And it was, I mean, obviously kind of a weird loaded question. It's like why are you asking me? And he was completely unprepared for the question. You could tell. And he thought for a second. He said, "Everybody who loves you will miss you."
Oh.
And I was like, holy crap. He unlocked the next
Nailed
level of
it.
the freaking Matrix there with that, because he dodged that bullet in very
Yeah.
Matrixy style, didn't he? And it hit the host so hard he could not make a joke out of it.
Yeah.
The crowd cheered, and he was just kind of dumbstruck at that moment. He was like, I guess I got to move on.
Yeah.
So Keanu Reeves is at least my current day celebrity admiration.
That's a good one.
Yeah, he's a good guy. He seems to be really good.
Would Matt Damon be in that same category? Because I have no idea where Matt Damon's political.
Good question. I haven't heard. Well, I think part of the thing is because he hasn't been in the spotlight very much. He hasn't had any big movies in the recent years. Maybe it's just that he's been out of sight and out of mind. Like I don't know. But Keanu Reeves has had some really big movies very, very recently, especially with that John Wick series, right? So he's been in front of cameras a lot. And I only know two things about Keanu Reeves. He says really cool things when he's in public. He's a really chill guy. You could just see him like riding the subway down the street. And he's really good in a weapons course. If you've ever seen those little videos of him running a weapons course where he has to switch from, he goes AR, tink, pink, pink, pink.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah. Oh, he's actually doing those things.
Wow.
It's really cool.
That is very cool. Yeah, it's interesting. We live in an age where it seems like if you have any sort of platform, if you're a celebrity, if you're famous, you're expected to speak out and tell everybody where you stand on whatever the hot issue of the day is and be part of the political conversation. I don't know about you, but I don't really care.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to take my cues as far as my views on politics, geopolitics, serious stuff from, a celebrity.
Right. Yeah. What do you know?
Right. I mean, why are they more qualified than me? I mean, I don't, and obviously I understand, as it's human nature to kind of look up to people who are famous or have a platform. You think, okay, you can idolize. But yeah, there's this push for them to have something to say about everything.
And I think that's an ideological thing where the left, they believe that whole platform thing. If you have a platform, you must use it for activism. It's the activist sort of aspect of the ideology.
Because Hollywood leans so far left.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. They're going to absorb all that stuff.
So I'm sure you've been anxiously waiting to know what the Hollywood set has to say about the Israel-Hamas conflict.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I haven't heard from anybody on this thing.
Don't you worry.
I mean, very
they are letting us know.
Okay, so they're coming out now.
They have written letters.
Okay.
Okay.
Strongly worded letters?
So we've got the war. We've actually got the war of letters because we've got a couple different letters that have been issued over the past couple of days. There was a letter issued last week, I think, by like 750 or some odd writers and other artists. No, that's from the UK. Okay, I'm sorry. So we got the warning letters.
Yeah.
You've got a whole bunch of people that sent a letter to President Biden demanding a ceasefire in the Israel-Hamas war.
Demanding a ceasefire.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Calling for peace, calling for de-escalation, demanding a ceasefire.
Of course, yes.
Maybe they're taking their cues from AOC.
Yeah, clearly.
Maybe.
Clearly,
Okay.
yes.
And then you've got another set that are demanding release of the hostages.
Okay, well, that's
several hundred
something.
Hollywood figures sign an open letter to Biden on Israel. No hostage can be left behind.
Okay. I'll take that.
They're acknowledging the hostages. That's a good thing.
I did think I saw something from Gal Gadot on that whole thing.
Yeah.
Being an Israeli. So
she's part of it. Yeah, you would think. Yeah, Bradley Cooper was part of that. Chris Rock, and Courtney Cox. So they're, big names, big names. You've got 50 Cent coming out saying, "Hey, Joe, get off the beach, bud. We got stuff going on."
Wow.
This was expletive, lady.
Right. I was toning that down for FCC purposes. I almost didn't. And then I was like, oh, that would probably be bad. It's not,
it tracks. It's 50 Cent. It tracks.
So, and who was it? Was it Lenny Kravitz who did the Free Palestine from Hamas?
Oh, maybe. I can't remember who.
Somebody said that. It was like they came out with, it was like a meme or a picture and it was like Free Palestine and then it said from Hamas.
Yeah.
So you've got these warring celebrity factions. maybe because maybe part of it is because they don't have enough to do right now with the strike and everything.
Yeah, they've got no products to promote right now. They can't do it.
They can't do that. So you've got these warring letters going to President Biden, who I'm sure is reading them closely.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's some of the reading he brought with him to the beach were the letters from the celebrities.
Hang on, Jill. I got to read this letter. It's written by 750 Hollywood celebrities.
Oh, wow.
And it's important for me to find out what they think about this.
That's impotent.
What? I mean, is that not like peak virtue signaling?
Absolutely. Now, to be fair,
look at you being fair.
I'm attempting to be fair. there have been the various calls at times. There's like, hey, you have been open about your stances on this, that, and the other thing.
Right.
Where are you on this issue? And I think people on the right would kind of tend to come after people who are at least have a history of making statements. Like, okay, now you have to say something about this. And now it's usually a challenge. It's usually, I'll say it's a little disingenuous just because, we know how the leftist type activist types in Hollywood usually come out on things, but this is so blatant, it's so obvious, it's so apparent in your face as to immorality of what happened there, that it's a challenge then to say, okay, are you going to stand with morality or are you going to stand with your leftist narrative? And I think in the environment that we're currently in, it would be weird for people not to say something.
Well, I think that's a good point because that's one of the themes that's kind of come out of all this is the silence.
Yeah.
From quarters that normally are not silent. And I've particularly seen, articles and comments from friends on social media who are Jewish, things about like, why is everybody so quiet?
Yeah. Where are you guys?
And I did see, I'm not going to get it exactly right. I'm going to paraphrase, but I saw, I think it was from an article. I don't know. A quote yesterday. They were talking about, if ever there is a time to stand up and shout no and speak up, this is it. What we saw happen on October 7th and the fallout from that. If you're going to take a stand on anything, this is the thing to take a stand on.
Yeah. I mean, remember that whole George Floyd thing. First of all, the George Floyd thing was a hoax. I mean, honestly, the information that I had a long time ago about this whole thing was like, it didn't add up.
Right.
But barring that, we'll go with the false narrative that they had concocted that police are out here just hunting down black folks and that one dying every day, even though it's more like 10 unarmed black men are killed every year, and usually they are fighting the police. So let's throw all that out. We're just take the narrative that they were presenting, that let's say hundreds of black folks are being killed unjustifiably by police in America on a regular basis, and that injustice needs action. They took to the streets. They threw Molotov cocktails into a quick trip here or there. They looted neighborhood stores in their own neighborhoods. They killed people. People died during those things. They set up autonomous zones like Chaz or whatever
Chop.
the place, Chop, whichever acronym we were going with, and people were assaulted in those. So there was a lot of activity. There was a lot of consternation. There was a lot of hurt feelings about this notion that hundreds of people were being unjustifiably killed in America. Fast forward to today, over 1,000 people are killed unjustifiably in Israel, and then the protests are coming out in favor of the ones who did the killing. That's the juxtaposition that we're having to live with on the left, and I hope my Jewish brothers and sisters on the liberal left are taking a second look at the woke ideology that their friends hold.
Oh, I think many of them are.
Yeah.
In fact, we're going to talk about that a little bit later too,
Absolutely.
because there have been some really, really kind of heartfelt articles and stuff that I've seen coming out about that. That's kind of been an eye-opening experience. And I know it's painful. It's painful to realize that people that you thought that had your back.
Yeah.
Are nowhere to be
we
found.
have to be very sensitive to that, by the way. We can't rub that in their face. We want to do the I told you so's real hard right now. Like I admit to have done a couple of I told you so's on Twitter. I mean, just they're very mild. It's kind of a see, but we need to be very gentle with them. Their world is coming crashing down right now, and that's a tough place to be.
Yeah. I mean, it's not only it's coming crashing down, and it's scary.
Yes.
This is a scary time for everybody, I think, but in particular, people who I mean, that the Jewish history is fraught with peril and tragedy, but I feel like there was a sense of all of that being primarily in the past, and there just being little pockets and whispers of occasional anti-Semitic sentiment, and it's just bloomed in response to this. And I mean, I'm not going to speak for anyone who's Jewish, but I have family members who are Jewish, and I'm very much part of the Jewish community by, with friendships and relationships that I have. And I think it's a genuinely scary time. There was an interview playing this morning with one of the young girls that survived the festival.
Oh yeah.
And she's back home now in New York, and she's was talking about how disorienting and scary it is. But the thing that she said that really got to me was she was talking about friends that have taken down the mezuzahs off their doors, which is, it's supposed to provide safety.
Yeah.
It's a
little safe haven. Yeah.
But they're taking it down because they feel like it's making them not safe.
Yeah.
And she also made the comment, having gone through the incident with the music festival, that she, oddly enough, still would feel safer in Israel than she does being back here in the States.
Oh my gosh. That's wild.
Crazy. Well, folks, stick around. When we come back, we're going to be talking to Joe Cunningham. We're going to be talking about the state of the speaker race and politics and all that good stuff. You're listening to the Mike Ferguson Morning Show on News Talk STL 1019 94.1.
We give you news, analysis, opinion, and more. Only on News Talk STL. Get up. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning.
On the next
Larry Connors, USA.
Food and medical aid being delivered to Gaza, and more hostages are being released, but are we really closer to ending this mess?
Larry Connors, USA. Now, weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 meteorologist Leah Hill. Going to be a bit of a dreary day as we have increasing cloud cover and a few spot showers are possible. Temperatures will still rise to near 80 degrees, and we'll start to see those rain chances increasing overnight to about 30%. Overnight lows reaching 66, and then tomorrow upper 70s, lower 80s. In fact, we're entering this stretch of unsettled weather that will last through Monday. That's your First Alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Leah Hill.
News Talk STL. Always streaming on your smart speaker, our mobile app, or newstalkstl.com.
Tony Colombo here with a great offer from Zero Res. Just mentioned the Colombo special when you book a cleaning in October, and you'll get 3 rooms of carpet cleaned starting at just $129 plus $50 off an air duct cleaning. We've trusted Zero Res with our home for years, and 5,000 Google reviews with an average of 4.9 out of 5 says it all. Zero Res is the best when it comes to cleaning any surface in your home. Just remember to mention the Colombo special when you call 314-474-2020 or book online at ZeroResSTL.com.
It's obvious the unthinkable is happening. With all the recent media distractions, most folks never saw it coming. But a few did. Their guts told them something very wrong was going on. And now the headlines are proving them right. The people in charge keep telling you that everything's fine and to stop noticing. But you know better. Folks are investing in emergency food storage, and you should too. My Patriot Supply, the nation's largest emergency preparedness company, are the ones you can trust. Go to mypatriotsupply.com and secure their best-selling 3-month emergency food kits. Each contains tasty breakfasts, lunches, and dinners, averaging over 2,000 calories per day. Get at least one for each family member. My Patriot Supply also sells biomass stoves, off-grid room heaters for when the power goes out, gravity-powered water filters, heirloom seeds, and survival gear that may come in handy soon. Go to mypatriotsupply.com today. It's time to prepare for what's coming. mypatriotsupply.com.
St. Louis's new choice for conservative talk.
It's time that everybody wake up and pay attention.
Live and local.
Recent criminal indictment of Donald Trump. About the fourth one. The fourth one. The one he got the free gift with. I think it's a tote bag.
This is News Talk STL.
Hey, this is Larry Connors. Make sure you're listening later today at 6 o'clock on News Talk STL for my show, Larry Connors USA. Now, back to Mike Ferguson in the morning.
We must have been stone crazy when we thought we were just friends.
Welcome back, folks. You're listening to the Mike Ferguson Morning Show on News Talk STL. Susie Moore filling in for Mike today. I've got Gabe in the studio with me. I've got Stell there keeping everything running. And we are very fortunate right now to be joined by a good friend of mine, Joe Cunningham. He's an editor with me at Red State, and he is he's kind of a maven. He's got a fix on everything that's going on with the political world.
Okay.
Much more so than some people do. So I thought, okay, you know what? Let's talk to Joe, because I think today's a big day on the Hill again while we try and figure out what's going on up there. Joe, how are you?
Well, you're making me blush, but other than that, I'm doing fine.
You're a man for all seasons.
Yeah, there you go.
I know. I was trying to really capture the essence. When I want to know, like, kind of the insider political wonk take on things, I talk with Joe. I bounce things off to Joe, and I talk all day long. I mean, we do work together at Red State, and so we've got like a Slack channel, so we're constantly like babbling back and forth. But it's like, I know he's going to be good to bounce things off of. And so, since today is round 85 of picking a speaker for the GOP House, I thought, okay, let's talk to Joe again and see what he's saying. So Joe, I don't know if you had a chance to see any of the comments that kind of came out of the meeting that the House GOP had last night.
I saw a couple. It's just going to be very interesting because it's very hard to catch a beat on things right now. You know, on one hand, you've got, I think conservatives really like the idea of like a Byron Donalds speakership. There's just the big problem of he's only been in politics for 7 years. He's only been in Congress for a couple. Can he really take hold of the system, or will the system just kind of swallow him whole?
Right.
And so that's a big question. You also have from the Republican leadership side, you've got Emmer running, but Emmer's got his own problems, like Donald Trump kind of rallying troops against him, which is very interesting because Trump backed Paul Ryan, Trump backed McCarthy, and Trump backed Jim Jordan. And so like his record as far as who he wants as speaker is kind of, it's kind of odd, to say it in the best possible way. So I don't know how much influence Trump is actually going to have over the conference, because the conference is coming to realize they need to get their own house in order. One of the candidates I'm really looking at, and not just because he's from Louisiana, but because I've gotten to know him through my own work in Louisiana, is Mike Johnson. He is a Republican. He's a solid conservative, but he's not in the House Freedom Caucus, which I think may work to his favor a little bit. It's one of the other reasons I'm kind of worried about Byron Donalds. Matt Gaetz is in the Freedom Caucus. Matt Gaetz is the one who toppled over the House of Cards. Jim Jordan's in the Freedom Caucus. The Freedom Caucus is kind of getting blamed for the chaos right now. So I don't know that Byron Donalds could get the moderate support in there. The moderates will probably likely try to get behind Emmer. And I think that conservatives will be split a few different ways in this one, but it's very interesting if you look at it from the insider perspective. But it's just very hard to tell where the conference is going to go, Suze.
You know, okay, I think I saw some little note last night that showed that Emmer and Trump have now kissed and made up, that they were playing kind of kissy face over the past 24 hours. So that Trump opposition may fade as far as Emmer's concerned. The thing that stands out to me is, you know, why have we reached a point in the Republican caucus? Why have they reached a point where whoever is the majority, whoever gets the majority of the votes, they can't just all agree to get behind? I mean, it seems to me that before they even have their secret vote, there should be some understanding that, okay, whoever wins the votes should go ahead and get the support of the 221 House GOP members, and something is holding them back from that.
So the way I'm about to describe it is probably going to make the anti-establishment people a little mad, but I don't mean it in a very hostile way. So just full disclaimer there. Right now, the big problem is that conservatives, particularly some of the very loud, very boisterous conservatives, they are acting like conservatives are in the majority. And so they're taking risks that normally they wouldn't, and it's backfiring a bit. Conservatives are not in the majority. Republicans are barely in the majority. And we know there are plenty of moderates who are just as fine with things like more government spending, sending more aid to Ukraine, things like that are really kind of giving conservatives pause. But when the Matt Gaetzes of the world, the Nancy Maces of the world, the Marjorie Taylor Greenes of the world, when they start acting like conservatism is in the majority in the House, it's backfiring a little bit. So the moderates getting frustrated at that mentality are working against the conservatives. Now, the flip side of that is that the conservatives are tired of being shut out of the process by the moderates. And so that's why they're fighting back a little bit harder, trying to win some battles they haven't even really fought for before. So the two sides are really finding it difficult to work with each other because they're working at cross ends, and they only have, what, a 4-seat majority right now. It's a very, very odd, very tricky situation in the House to try to come to a consensus where the majority can actually be in the majority.
Yeah, it's
So,
always a thing.
so one of the things I've, by the way, hey, Joe, this is Gabe Pfeiffer. One of the things I've been hearing too is that there's a bit of a sort of personal angle to this. A lot of hurt feelings. A lot of people have imploded their relationships with one another. Things of that nature going on. Is that your impression of what's happening as well?
Yeah. So one of the big things here, I mean, the reason why Steve Scalise couldn't make it through actually stems back to hurt feelings from the John Boehner days. So we got to go all the way back down the timeline for that. Yeah. So the Republican Study Committee always been like the big key conservative caucus within the House. Well, the leaders of the RSC would always essentially pick who they wanted to replace them. The group would vote, and that person would become the next chairman of the Republican Study Committee. Well, at some point, Republican leadership took advantage of a couple different rules. And Steve Scalise, who was in the RSC, who was not really all that much of a conservative, was able to win the chairmanship of the RSC over the previous chairman's pick of Jim Jordan. And so there are a lot of conservatives who date back all the way to then who are very, very upset about, which is why they were able to rally other conservatives against Scalise when Scalise was running for leader. So, I mean, we're talking about some longstanding grudges here. And again, a lot of people who are now in office who maybe weren't then, but they're feeling kind of big. They're feeling like they got some power now, and so they want to stretch their wings a little bit and try to use some of that power they think they have.
Hey, good morning, Joe. Stal Ponticus here. You mentioned Scalise and Jordan, two individuals who, to me, lean towards the MAGA side. And from my perspective, I think there's a real point of friction between the uniparty faction that's there, not wanting folks who lean MAGA to be in charge. And I don't know how we're going to get past this fence that seems to be there. But from my perspective, I think that's part of the problem. The uniparty's pushing back against the MAGA folks. Would you agree or disagree?
There's a little bit that plays into that. It's not so much uniparty as it is just really the moderate Republicans, and it's best exemplified in Representative Ken Buck. Buck voted to oust McCarthy, but he also voted against Jim Jordan. And his stated reason for voting against Jim Jordan was that he wanted Jordan to come out and say that Trump did wrong on January 6th, that Trump didn't want that Trump was not the rightfully elected president, things like that. Basically what Buck, and he saw this out of McCarthy too, because remember, McCarthy went down to Mar-a-Lago, kissed the ring, got the blessing and all that. Buck really seems like he wants the House to belong to the House and not belong to any particular Republican candidate or president. He wants to fight for the institution. I think that's what a lot of this really comes down to, is a lot of institutionalists who just have disagreements on how the institution itself should be run. How should the institution that is the House of Representatives be run, and who should run it? Should it be run by somebody who's influenced by an outside force like Donald Trump, or should it be run by somebody who has a knowledge of the system and the institution and can help it run efficiently? So it's less, I think, uniparty wanting to defy the MAGA, just as more that it's, we want to keep the House the House. We don't want it to belong to any outside group.
No, that's interesting. I know that I mean, some of them were home over the weekend because they had a little bit of a break, and from what I could tell, at least from the ones who were talking to the media, they were all catching an earful from constituents. I think the vast majority of their constituents are kind of fed up with this infighting, and while it may have, there may be legitimate grievances that need to still be addressed at some point, I think people have about had it. Is that your read?
Yeah, I think that this is the last round of fighting, to be honest. I think that Republicans all over are getting kind of fed up. But what it's going to come down to is who's going to promise what to who. Because at the end of the day, this is still politics. If you want to be speaker, you're going to have to give something up. You're going to have to make some promises. But what makes this fight, I think, better for the Republicans overall is that, frankly, McCarthy era wheeling and dealing was about giving up a bunch of power to attain the goal of being in leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Republicans who are currently running know that's inefficient, because look what happened. He eventually, it's the whole Faustian deal. He eventually sold so much of his soul that he could not be saved.
Right.
I think whoever is going to come out on top here is going to know to cut the deals that need to be cut, but also not to give away the House in order to be able to attain that speakership. The goal has to be uniting the party, not just getting into that speaker role.
Do we know what time they're going to be voting this morning?
I have not heard the official time yet, but we do know that Republicans are really leaning toward the sooner the better. So hopefully by noon today, the process will at least be underway.
Okay. Well, Joe, appreciate you joining us this morning to talk about the palace intrigue going on there in the Capitol. Where can folks find your work?
You can find me with you over at redstate.com. You can find me on Twitter at Joe P. Cunningham. You can also find me over on Substack. My own radio show, the podcast version, gets put up there. A lot of the stuff I write at Red State, and some stuff that I write that's a little more state and local centric here in Louisiana too, also gets posted. Just look for the Joe Cunningham Show at Substack.
Fantastic.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you for joining us this morning. Appreciate your insight.
Thank y'all.
All right. Well, it's going to be an interesting day.
Yeah. It feels, what's funny is you mentioned the whole palace intrigue thing, and my mind immediately went to Game of Thrones. I'm like, no. This is like Game of Chairs. That's what this is. This is Game of Chairs. Maybe
not nearly as glamorous.
Maybe stools. Game of stools.
Game of folding chairs.
Game of folding chairs. That's kind of the plastic ones that you have out on your patio that they sell at Walmart.
Go.
Yeah,
that's a good analogy.
Joe's from Louisiana. We didn't get a chance to ask him about Landry winning as governor down there.
Yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit more when we come back. Stick around, folks. You're listening to News Talk STL 1019 94.1.
And I've got those feelings again.
We give you news, analysis, opinion, and more. Only on News Talk STL. Get up. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning. News, analysis, opinion.
Thank you very, very much.
News Talk STL.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness 101. Wellness 101 is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense, science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on News Talk STL. For more information, visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
The Herzog Foundation is the vision of its founder, Stanley Herzog, and it exists to promote and accelerate the development of quality Christ-centered K-12 education.
Hi, this is Daryl Jones, president of the Herzog Foundation. We have an exciting new training opportunity available for public school and Christian school teachers. The Herzog Foundation Institute has partnered with the Bill of Rights Institute to offer 4 training events in 4 Missouri cities this year. These day-long professional development opportunities are best suited for middle and high school civics, government, U.S. history, and social studies teachers. Middle and high school teachers have a unique opportunity to strengthen civic knowledge and values for the next generation. We want to help teachers seize this opportunity.
Visit herzogfoundation.com/events to learn more and register for a Bill of Rights Institute training event near you. herzogfoundation.com/events. herzogfoundation.com/events.
This hour of Mike Ferguson in the Morning is brought to you by Stifel. Request a portfolio review from your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Hey, this is Todd Showalter. Join me for the Right Mind Show on Saturday at 5 as I try to put some fun back into this wacky radio station. You know, and speaking of wacky, let's get back to Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Sorry, still I couldn't wait. I had to wait for that big crescendo.
Yeah.
Crescendo. Mike Ferguson may be wacky, but he's not here right now.
Yeah.
Susie Moore filling in for Mike today. Gabe Pfeiffer and Stel Ponticus. Stel, before we went to break, you were talking about Jeff Landry's win in Louisiana. They did just have a jungle primary. I guess it was like a week ago in Louisiana for the new governor. John Bell Edwards is the outgoing governor there. And Jeff Landry, who's the current attorney general there in Louisiana, won enough of the votes that they don't have to do a runoff.
Is it one of those 50% things?
Yeah. And well,
where you have to get 50 plus one?
I'm trying to remember if it was 50 or if it was like 40, 45. I think it was 50 plus one. Whatever the cutoff was, he got more than it. So they don't have to have a runoff. He's it.
Right.
So there's not going to be a follow-up runoff. He will be the next governor of Louisiana, which is long overdue.
Yes, absolutely.
And we could have had Joe talk about this, but Louisiana is an interesting state. I mean, it's very much a red state. My very liberal sister, who had to spend 5 years of her life living in Monroe, Louisiana, could tell me that. But they've had a Democratic governor for the past 8 years.
So weird.
Yeah.
It's like, how did that work?
Well,
was it because of the jungle primary, you think, or was
no? I don't even know that was in play when Edwards was first elected. I'm not 100% sure. I'd have to look. But he's, I guess you could call him a moderate Democrat. I think he was aware of, his constituency, but it kind of is an interesting juxtaposition. So I think they're going to be well served by Jeff Landry. He's been kind of a fighter in the AG's office. He kind of teamed up with Eric Schmidt and then Andrew Bailey on a number of important high-profile pieces of litigation.
Yeah.
So
was Ken Paxton also involved with those? Maybe not.
Not Missouri versus Biden.
Okay.
Because that's the real big one. But there was another Missouri Louisiana collaboration. I think that might have had to do with the OSHA rules. I don't know if Paxton was part of that or not.
Probably not.
But yeah, it's one of those things where good for them. We've got a couple other gubernatorial elections coming up in this off year that are big. You got Kentucky. That's, I think, in 2 weeks, and that's Andy Beshear, the incumbent Democrat, versus Daniel Cameron, the Republican. I don't know I haven't looked at the polling on that.
Yeah, I haven't seen much on that either.
And then we've got the elections in Virginia, the state house elections, which, Glenn Youngkin has been out front and center really trying to make sure he can garner a majority for his to help with his governorship. So that's going to be interesting to watch too. So it's not, we're looking at 2024. We're looking at, the primaries, we're looking at the presidential election, and we're forgetting there's a couple of big elections coming up before then.
Oh yeah, there's always those smaller elections, and really we got to remember also that any time that there are the state and local level type even the really super low level, especially school boards and things like that, that those are often more important on some level to your daily life than the big national ones.
They are. Later this week, we're going to have a guest on, Chris Howard, to talk specifically about the fact that in Missouri this time around, we're not going to have a presidential primary. We're going to have a caucus.
Yes, I need to understand this.
Yeah, we all do.
Because
very few people have participated in the caucus process.
In caucus, yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of people aren't even aware. You're not going to go to the voting booth on the presidential. You will for governor and, the statewide offices and that sort of thing. You are not going to for picking your presidential candidate.
Yeah, that question won't even be on the ballot.
No. And I think a lot of people just aren't aware of that and certainly are not familiar with the process. It's not a I mean, it's a complicated process.
Yeah.
So
Almost an insider deal,
So
right?
I made a point to make sure that we have somebody who's going to come on with us, and I think that's on Thursday to
Excellent.
talk about how that works and
Good.
what that means for those of us who are somewhat attuned and want to be involved in it. Because the chances are we probably know who Missouri is going to pick for the Republican nominee, but it's still a process.
Yep.
Because you never know in a caucus state. Because
Yeah.
when you look north to Iowa, you get surprise winners half the time. Pat Robertson. Oh, okay.
It's true.
It's like that came out of nowhere.
And
Yeah.
Sure did.
Given the fact that we've never done this before or haven't done it in years, it's going to be an interesting thing.
Yeah, I mean, a grassroots organization for one particular candidate could run away with it, and it could be a complete dark horse winner.
That very well could. So I don't even know if we know the date of that yet. I feel like it's in February or March.
I haven't seen a date or anything.
I might
or location.
I might
or
have seen it and
anything.
I've forgotten it.
That's
but
why I need to know.
People need to be aware.
I'm looking forward to talking with.
So right, yeah, don't just focus on that is part of the national election, but it's kind of a local. It's got a local flavor to it.
Mhm.
But don't just focus on that. There are other things going around that need your attention as well, and you need to be informed, and you need to make sure you're participating if you want to have a say in anything. So. Well, that was fast first hour.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you're listening to the Mike Ferguson Show, folks, here on News Talk STL 1019 94.1. We'll be back right after the news break.
The latest news.
Speaker of the House of Representatives is hereby declared vacant.
Keeping government open and paying our troops was the right decision.
Matt Gaetz needs to quit being a chaos agent.
The news you need to know.
$33 trillion in debt is chaos.
We're competing with the job candidates. They'll do anything. Secretary of something.
There's something dangerous happening in America. The MAGA movement.
And the place to talk about it.
This has totally got me livid.
1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Now, the Free Market Minute, brought to you by the Hammond Institute for Free Enterprise at Lindenwood University.
I'm here with Dr. Howard Wall. And Howard, we know that the federal budget deficit is big, but how big of a problem is this?
Well, last year, about 22% of federal spending was financed by borrowing, which drove the national debt past the $30 billion level.
Okay, that's a lot of spending, but people don't really like spending cuts.
Well, if spending isn't cut, taxes need to rise, but the only way to raise enough revenue is with large tax increases on the middle class. These greed-driven taxes on the ultra-wealthy just won't come close to closing the deficit. The public has been happy to kick the budget can down the road, but without making hard choices now, we'll suffer even more painful consequences later.
The John W. Hammond Institute for Free Enterprise at Lindenwood University fosters and examines market-oriented approaches to economic and social issues. To learn more, visit hammondinstitute.org.
Columbo and Katie.
Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table. The office of Speaker of the House of the United States House of Representatives is hereby declared vacant.
Wow. So there you go.
Wow.
This is truly a moment in American history. Kevin McCarthy has been removed as Speaker of the House.
Tony Columbo, Katie Fitzpatrick. Weekdays at 2 on News Talk STL. KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Belfast, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason. 2 elderly Jewish women, the latest hostages to be released by their Hamas captors in Gaza. Their release comes days after a couple of Americans were let go.
The hostages were an 85-year-old and a 79-year-old who had been snatched from their kibbutz near the Gaza border during Hamas's October 7th rampage into southern Israel.
It's okay. Let's go.
It was the second such release, but the Israeli military says more than 200 others, including the 83-year-old and 84-year-old husbands of the 2 women, are still being held hostage. Americans believed to be among them. National Security Council spokesman John Kirby.
It is literally an hour-by-hour effort here at the White House and at the State Department to find out where these folks are and to try to make the effort to get them out and get them back.
I'm Ben Thomas.
Israel's aerial assault on Hamas targets in Gaza continues, along with Hezbollah targets in southern Lebanon. A Stellantis plant in Sterling Heights, Michigan, the latest target of the auto workers' strike. UAW President Shawn Fain tells WXYZ TV there's been some progress in contract talks, but it's still not enough.
We told them from day one what our expectations are. We didn't want to wait till the last minute to try to throw a deal in there. They waited, 6 weeks into bargaining to get serious. We are where we are. So, but they know where we need to be, and we're not. We can get there. We can get a deal done, this week. But we got to get serious. The company's got to get serious and get down to business.
And speaking of getting down to business, we'll see if House Republicans are serious about doing that. When it comes to electing a new Speaker of the House, another private vote planned today to select a Speaker nominee from among the 8 candidates who are currently in the running for the speakership. Watching Wall Street, Dow futures up 151, NASDAQ futures 96 points higher. More on these stories at townhall.com.
The following is not an actor, but a real-life story from Trinity Debt Management.
I'm Corey, and this is my story. I was going through some financial troubles paying off my credit cards. I was paying high interest rates, and it just wasn't getting any better. And I knew I had to do something. So my mom told me about Trinity, and so I decided to call. Trinity was able to do something that I couldn't. I'm paying off my debt. I'm saving thousands, and things are really looking up. I promise you guys, you will not regret it when you called Trinity, because it was such a relief and less stress in my life, and it was the best thing I could have done for myself, because once I called Trinity, they took care of me, and I felt such a relief, a weight off my shoulders. Trinity was great to work with. They wanted to help me. I love it.
If you're in debt and you need help, call Trinity at 1-800-990-6976.
I'm Corey, and I'm debt-free for keeps.
1-800-990-6976.
From the Michael's Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 meteorologist Leah Hill. Going to be a bit of a dreary day as we have increasing cloud cover and a few spot showers are possible. Temperatures will still rise to near 80 degrees, and we'll start to see those rain chances increasing overnight to about 30%. Overnight lows reaching 66, and then tomorrow upper 70s, lower 80s. In fact, we're entering this stretch of unsettled weather that will last through Monday. That's your First Alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Leah Hill.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Planning a party with family, friends, maybe a business party. Cafe Napoli has 4 locations, and each has rooms to fit your needs. But a word to the wise, book early. Cafe Napoli in Clayton, Cafe Napoli in Town and Country, Napoli 3 on the streets of St. Charles, or right next door, Napoli C. Also get some Cafe Napoli gift cards, good for all locations, anytime. I'll see you at Cafe Napoli.
Mystic Fix is sponsored by Comma Flight, redefining the dance between the masculine and feminine. Comma Flight is a somatic movement practice merging yoga, meditation, and massage. Workshops in 2023 are at the Chosen Retreat Center in Sebastian, Florida. For more, visit Comma Flight on Instagram at KAMAFLIGHT.
This hour of Mike Ferguson in the Morning brought to you by Window World. Simply the best for less. 314-993-1800 or visit windowworld.com. Mike Ferguson.
You play ball like a girl!
Gabe Pfeiffer.
I triple saw Darius! Get up! Get up! Can't you hear the alarm?
Get up, St. Louis.
So it's time to get out of bed. Pour yourself the greatest cup of Kofifi the world has ever seen. Rise up with one voice, drain the swamp, and take back our country. Today's the day we're going to do it, and it's time to do it right now, believe me.
Mike Ferguson in the Morning on News Talk STL.
Get up! Get up! This is your cousin.
Well, you almost caught me flat-footed there for the Kofifi dance style. My cord's tangled up.
Oh,
I'm trying
no.
not to spill water everywhere.
Yeah,
Good
yeah.
morning, folks. You're listening to the Mike Ferguson Morning Show. Susie Moore filling in for Mike while he's out playing baseball and stuff like that. Got Gabe Pfeiffer in the studio with me. I got Stel Ponticus in the studio with me. And we were talking a little bit on the break. I was going to talk about this before, but got sidetracked. Imagine that. So, these are difficult times.
Yeah.
No question about it. We've got, at home, we've got inflationary and economic issues. We've got, heightened tensions just in general. We got the powder keg in the Middle East. We got China bumping Philippine boats.
We've got an auto strike that we've all kind of forgotten about.
That's right.
Auto strike. Exactly.
My goodness.
Much more impactful than the Writers Guild strike.
Yeah, or the Actors Guild strike.
Actors Guild strike. There's just a lot going on, and that these are the times that you look to your leaders, right? I mean, that's when somebody who is a true leader really is supposed to step up and show that and kind of help.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that we really see a solid leadership coming out of the White House.
No.
Now, I'm going to preface this with one thing. I will give Joe Biden credit for being fairly strong in terms of our support for Israel. Overall, the messaging coming out of the White House and the Biden administration has been support for Israel. We've got your back. Now, there have been some kind of confusing mixed messages.
Mm-hmm.
Some of that just because Biden maybe flubbed what he was trying to say, and some of it because different people didn't quite get the memo.
Green Jean-Pierre, looking at you.
Oh yeah, I want to get to her in just a second. I got something to say about her.
Oh, you just flipped her trigger.
I did.
I mean, I give her. She's definitely good discussion fodder.
Yes,
there's always something to talk about. But she really caught my attention yesterday. But before I get to her, so Joe Biden yesterday, in the midst of all of this, after his trip over to Israel, and he's back here now. Oh, well, he did have a weekend at the beach.
Yeah. Well, you got to, right? I mean, it's just. Well, here's the thing.
But every weekend?
I'm just look at his age. He should be spending every weekend at the beach.
And every day.
Every day. It's the weather's good for his breathing.
Yeah.
And it's relaxing. That's what you're supposed to do in retirement, Joe.
Gabe, I don't get weekends at the beach, and I'm not running the free world.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying.
Yes, same.
The look is a little weird. But so he's back, and yesterday he's given a speech on Bidenomics, which okay.
They decided to own it, which is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, that's a bold strategy, Cotton. But it seems very tone deaf right now to be touting Bidenomics, which is really him campaigning. I mean,
yeah.
How often does the president need to talk to you about the economy if he's not just trying to get your vote for the next election? I mean,
yeah, that's pretty much the only reason to do.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, he's doing it on the regular here. So anyway, he's giving this speech. First of all, he runs out to the podium before he's introduced, so he misses his cue there.
It's so weird.
He's having trouble reading his teleprompter, which is like gigantic print for him.
Yeah, and it's funny because he's squinting at it. I mean, he looks kind of like Mr. Magoo while he's doing it, and it's just like, oh man, this is gonna get worse and worse.
Yeah, and then in the middle of it, he's taking some questions, and then he's like, "Oh, I got to go to the Situation Room," and like walks off. Which I said this to Tim and Chris yesterday afternoon. Maybe he did have, and I think that I think we know why he had to go to the Situation Room. So I think that was legit. I don't think that was just a lame excuse to try and get out of answering questions. But I don't think you normally announce that.
No.
You say, folks, I've got a prior engagement, or I've got something else I have to get to.
Right.
You don't say, I'm going to the Situation Room, because that signals something's going on.
Something happening. The president in the Situation Room means something, imminent is happening of its significant importance, and he has to act as commander in chief. That when the president acts as commander in chief, that's usually when some ish is going down.
That's right.
So you don't think he was just going to the bathroom?
No.
No.
That's a different kind of situation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, there was legitimate. There was some more strikes that came in on American forces. I think near Iraq.
Yeah.
That's right.
And so I think that's what that was about. But in any event, as he's leaving, he's being asked about a ceasefire. And he says, he starts to say, yeah, we need a ceasefire. And then he catches himself and says, we need the hostages, all the hostages released
There
first.
you go.
Then we can talk. And then they had to clean that up even because that
Yeah.
implied if you give us all the hostages,
It's over.
it's over.
Yeah, no. No, it's over when Hamas is destroyed.
I mean, these are difficult times, and I understand. I'm sitting here in front of a microphone right now. We all flub our words. Sometimes it's hard to find the right words to say, but when you are the president of the United States, you gotta be better than that.
Yeah.
See,
yeah.
listen, I just did his whisper thing.
Oh, yes.
See that?
The lean in.
Yeah. You gotta be better than
It's all about the jobs. 3-letter words, JOBS.
God love him. That was back when he was much more cognizant.
Yeah. He's been a flub master since, I don't know, his career, his entire career.
Oh yeah,
He's
yeah,
been a flub master.
He's just
So,
excelling at it now.
yeah.
It's exponentially worse. So yeah, I mean, it's rough. It's just not inspiring to have the guy who's supposed to be kind of front and center missing his mark, not being able to read his teleprompter, and yeah, I don't know.
It
I don't know
feels
what to think
really
of that.
weird.
So the messaging is coming out of the White House is weird too. I don't know if you saw this yesterday, Gabe, but Karine Jean-Pierre gave her press conference,
Mm-hmm.
and she was asked by a reporter, "What is Biden's level of concern right now about a potential rise of anti-Semitism in light of everything that's going on in Israel?" Solid question.
Solid question.
We're seeing story after story after story of this, not just in the Middle East, not just in Europe, in the United States. You're seeing this uptick, and there'd already been an uptick in anti-Semitic crimes, and so legitimate question.
Yes.
So you would expect that she would be prepared for it because this is an important issue. This is a very sensitive topic. She's got her binder with her notes and everything like that. That's a question you would expect her to be ready for, right?
Yes.
Well, she was ready for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
She had an answer she read. Did you hear what the answer was?
I did.
Okay.
Made
I'm
me
just going
mad.
to I'm not going to read the whole thing here.
Okay.
I'm just going to read part of it.
Okay.
So, a couple things. Look, we've not seen any credible threats. I know there's always been questions about credible threats, and so I just want to make sure that's out there. But look, Muslims and those perceived to be Muslim have endured a disproportionate number of hate-fueled attacks, and certainly President Biden understands that many of our Muslim, Arab American, and Palestinian American loved ones are worried about the hate being directed at their communities. And that is something you heard the president speak to in his address just last Thursday.
I don't cuss, but I want to cuss right now. It's like, woman, and replace that word. That's not what I asked you.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
And I will cut enough slack to say, look, if you want to tie in, concern overall about people being attacked for their faith or their ethnicity, I get it.
America stands for not attacking people because of those things. Agreed. That's fine.
It should anyway.
Yeah.
But that would have been, she had a softball teed up.
It was an easy one. It should have been.
Did you hear her mention Judaism, Jewish people, the Jewish faith, anti-Semitism, synagogues,
nothing.
Anything in those words?
Nothing.
No.
Nothing. Not at all.
No. She goes on for another paragraph. I'm not going to read it, but she mentions them once. So it's like, we're concerned about anti-Semitism. Yes, but we're concerned about Islamophobia.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really that's the pivot. And I think that rhetorical turn that she took there is very similar to the sort of societal turn that we saw just in the world writ large.
Yeah.
That's what Jews are seeing. It's like, we've been attacked and hurt, and then free Palestine. That is the response. It's like, they're coming to kill us.
Yeah.
Freedom for the Palestinian people.
I don't know.
It's the same thing.
I'm just I'm mind boggled, and I should be kind of impervious to it at this point, but I was mind boggled by that response.
Yeah.
I don't understand. It was almost like she heard a different question.
Yeah.
Than was given to her, because her answer was teed up and ready to go about Islamophobia. And I'll have to go dig up the stats, but I know there's been something like a 37% uptick in anti-Semitic incidents over the past, I don't know, couple of years, maybe a year.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that they never happen. We're not seeing a huge uptick in Islamophobic incidents.
No, not really. Not in the grand scheme of things, especially because, you also have to consider this. What counts as these things? What
Right.
counts as Islamophobic attack? What
Right.
counts as, because the left, they are masters at manipulating the numbers in that regard. So
Mhm.
it's like, well, it's an anti-Islam, it's an Islamophobic attack to I don't even know. It's just something
Wave an Israeli flag.
exactly. Add something innocuous that should be fine, and then they will count that as Islamophobic. So whenever they cite certain numbers, I'm generally skeptical, except that we've seen, like, on video, things happen. We've seen news stories of synagogues getting, attacked and things like that. So we know for sure that attacks against Jews have been on the uptick, because
Right.
we've actually seen those situations
Sure.
happen. So you would think that they would have a ready response. I would have even preferred if they went with their standard, well, those white supremacists and far right Nazis are out there doing stuff. That would have made more sense, at least in my mind, because that would be the leftist response.
True.
But at least it would have responded to the actual dang question.
Yeah.
In this case, she threw the question aside,
Mhm.
which was it made it worse. It
Mhm.
really did make it worse.
Oh, it did. It did. It's interesting because, like, when the Tree of Life synagogue shooting happened, there was a lot of emphasis on the anti-Semitism, and of course, the ire was directed at the far right.
Yes.
But now that a lot of the anti-Semitism is coming from the left,
Mhm.
we're just going to ignore it.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
All right, well, stick around, folks. We've got more to talk about that. Lots more to talk about here on Mike Ferguson Morning Show on News Talk STL 1019 94.1.
Like us on Facebook at News Talk STL.
Stop right now. I have had enough of this. Turn my eyes to your indifference. Stop right now.
Get up, St. Louis. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Get up. Can't you hear the alarm? Get up. This is your cousin.
Columbo and Katie.
Is it third time's a charm for the Republican Party and Speaker of the House on Tuesday? We'll discuss all the latest drama with Crane Durham from NothingButTruth.com at 2:20.
Weekdays at 2 on News Talk STL.
Mike Ferguson here. Retirement should be a time you can relax. No more stress from work. But there's one thing you can't forget about when retiring. That's your money. Do you have enough saved to fund your income for life and keep up with inflation? How will you claim your Social Security benefits? And what about long-term care? The ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel is here to help answer all of these questions. You can hear their latest views on the markets and investing during On the Money, hosted by Stifel financial advisors Bob Stockdale and Eric Robert, every Saturday morning at 9, right here on News Talk STL. They can help you get organized, guide you through critical retirement decisions, and create an investment portfolio designed around your needs. To schedule your free retirement plan consultation, go to clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com. Or call 636-695-2650, 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
Tony Colombo here, reminding you to visit my friends at Bluff City Outdoors in Alton before your next trip into the great outdoors. For decades, Bluff City Outdoors has covered all the needs for area fishermen, and they'll always have all the best bait, tackle, and gear for your next trip on the water. And now they cover all your bow hunting needs, including their state-of-the-art indoor archery range and techno hunt system, open every day for you to come shoot, or you can join a league. Follow Bluff City Outdoors on Facebook and learn more at bluffcityoutdoors.com.
1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL. Live and local.
Listen to what those local folks are telling you.
News Talk STL.
Hey there, Tim Jones here. Make sure you join me and my buddy Chris Arps this afternoon from 4 until 6 p.m. right here on 1019 94.1 News Talk STL. Right now, let's get back to more of Mike Ferguson in the morning.
I hear your name whispered on the wind. It's a sound that makes me cry.
So speaking of Speaker Tim Jones, we're going to be talking to him in just a few minutes.
Yeah.
So that was nice of him to kind of bring us back in. I'm sorry. I was listening to that song. It was taking me back to younger days. You know?
Oh yeah, same. Yeah,
Still
just
playing
just
some
the
good bumper
sound,
music.
just
Yeah.
the sound, right, with the little
Kind
synthesizer
of
going.
reminiscent of innocent times.
Feels that way.
Simpler times,
Mhm.
right?
The late 80s.
Yeah.
So, Gabe, I don't know, or I don't know if you're into musicals or anything like that, but are you familiar with The Sound of Music?
I am.
Okay. So one of the big songs from that is How Do You Solve a Problem Like Maria?
Yes.
Which came to mind when I was planning this next segment because it's titled How Do You Solve a Problem Like Rashida?
Yeah, I imagine it's a less lighthearted tune than the one from the musical, I imagine.
Well, sort of. Now, Rashida Tlaib is, of course, a congresswoman from Michigan.
Mhm.
She is Palestinian by heritage. That's not a secret. And she obviously has her empathy, her sympathies lie with the Palestinian cause.
Mhm.
She has, in the past been accused of making anti-Semitic comments, that sort of thing.
Mhm.
But it's really, really, really kind of been in the focus of things in the past couple of weeks because of everything that's happening with the Hamas attack on Israel and the response. So one of the big news stories, of course, last week was the explosion at the hospital in Gaza that was initially right off the bat blamed on the Israelis. And 500 people were claimed to be dead
Mhm.
within minutes of the explosion.
Yeah, because they can count that fast. They
Right.
really
And yeah,
do.
it happened at night, and then immediately told us how many were dead, and it was all Israel's fault.
Mhm.
And of course, the mainstream media jumped on that. Everybody jumped on it. I can tell you, give you guys a little bit of inside baseball at Red State. I saw the reports come out, and I said, hey, guys, we need to be following this, but hold off.
Mhm.
Like something's maybe a little off
Not
here.
passing the smell test.
No. And so that's how we wrote it up. It was like, okay, this is what's being reported. There's some reason to have some question about it. There's still a lot of information to be gathered. And it turned out that was the better way to approach things. Not
Yes.
that, I am going to toot Red State's horn. I am going to. Because
Yeah.
we did the right thing.
Absolutely. Journalistic integrity.
We try. And we don't even hide the fact that we do have a bias. I mean, we're a
Well, yeah.
conservative news outlet.
Right, yeah.
Okay. It's not like we're trying to hide the ball there,
Right.
but we do still try to maintain some journalistic standards and make sure that we're not getting out ahead of ourselves. Unlike, the New York Times, the Washington Post, Reuters, and Rashida Tlaib.
Yes.
Now the news organizations have, stealth edited and walked it back and kind of eventually kept pivoted around to acknowledging that, well, the evidence kind of seems to show that it probably wasn't the Israelis. Looks like it was actually a Palestinian Islamic Jihad, which who knew they were hanging out with Hamas?
Yeah.
Apparently they are. Misfired rocket. And the rocket landed in the parking lot of the hospital. And yes, there were probably people killed, but probably not to the tune of 500. Maybe
No.
a tenth of that.
Yeah.
Not, again, loss of life is bad.
Mhm.
Bad. No matter the numbers. But maybe it's a little bit of a clue or a hint to media outlets that you don't just run with what Hamas says.
Mhm. Yeah.
Don't just take them at their word.
Maybe take that with a grain of salt.
Maybe verify.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter to Rashida.
No, of course not.
I think even AOC and maybe even Ilhan Omar walked their initial statements back a little bit. I mean, they're still kind of trying to walk, straddle the fence there.
Yeah.
Nope, Rashida doesn't believe it. She wants an independent investigation
Oh gosh.
because the Israelis and the U.S. government have been known to mislead people about things involving war.
Really?
Yeah.
So that's her stance.
Now,
Okay.
here's the funny thing about that.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with her.
Well, yes.
I agree with her that the government has misled.
Yes. We have history of that. We have absolute knowledge that happened.
We absolutely do. And we are constantly griping about the fact that we're being misled by the spin coming out of Washington, that sort of thing. So I agree with her.
In principle.
But it's interesting that it's only on this issue that she takes that issue. I mean, I don't think she griped at the government for what it was saying about COVID. I don't think she griped at it about, the Infrastructure Act. I don't think she's had any of those gripes. This is only about this particular news story that she's not willing to take Joe Biden and John Kirby and Karine Jean-Pierre and the Israeli government, the IDF and AP and Reuters who've now said, oh yeah, we looked at it and you're probably right.
Yeah.
Nope. That's not good enough.
No,
Now,
of
I don't
course
know
not.
who the independent investigators are that she wants to have look into this.
I'm going to assume Al Jazeera.
Maybe.
I think she would
You
believe
know,
Al
I should go
Jazeera.
look. I don't know what Al Jazeera is saying about this. I think they might have even walked into that.
Probably.
So I'm gonna have to look. I'm gonna make a note.
There
Al Jazeera.
There are instances in which Al Jazeera has actually done better journalism
Yes.
than our local journalists.
Yeah, I mean,
I've seen it.
I was gonna say I will occasionally go check things out there to kind of do the sort of full, inventory of what's being said and what's being reported because I want to make sure we're getting the story right. And I don't want to just rely on one outlet or one point of view, that sort of thing. So yeah, no, sometimes they can be helpful. I'll have to go check that out. Or maybe Gabe checking it out. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'm looking. I'm gonna check it
So
out here.
anyway, she's very, very vociferously, denounced Israel's response to
Mhm.
the attack. I don't think she's ever denounced specifically what Hamas did. I think she's made some sort of general kind of cover-all statements about it, but I don't think she ever has really. And I know she certainly was not willing to talk to the reporter who was asking her about whether she'd denounced the beheaded babies.
Yeah.
Although she was standing out in front of the Capitol last week when people were protesting there, not insurrectioning, by the way.
Yeah.
Just protesting.
Just protesting. Yes.
Right?
It wasn't an insurrection.
But she was
Don't say
crying
that.
about, she was in tears, crying about the babies and the children being, killed. Well, again, I agree with her.
Mhm.
But it isn't just Palestinian babies that I would cry over. It's Israeli babies too. And she doesn't seem to have that. That doesn't seem to be part of what she's including in her
No.
sympathy.
She does not care. Actually, I don't think she legitimately cares.
Yeah.
I'd go so far as to think that she's among those who would think it's justified.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're right.
I mean, given the percentages we saw from that poll we
Mhm.
discussed earlier in the show, I absolutely believe that she's one of those. I guess she's in the 30-something range, so
Mhm.
so she'd be in the.
Oh, she's
Actually,
older than that.
she's in her 40s.
Mhm.
So there's, I think, 20-something% of the population in that age range
Sure.
believe that Hamas was justified. She's in that percentage.
I think you're right. What's interesting too is that, some of her fellow Democrat Congress members are not happy
Mm-hmm.
with this. There have been some pretty strident rebukes from like Jared Moskowitz. Richie Torres has come out. He's a Democrat from New York, a pro-Israel progressive is how he styles himself.
Well, yeah.
And he's had some choice words for Ilhan Omar about some of her rhetoric over this. He says, let's see. He was asked about what her comments about him. And he says, I resent the comments. Every casualty is a tragedy. Every war is a humanitarian crisis. But we have to keep in mind the causes of the war. Israel did not start the war. The war was imposed upon Israel by the barbaric terrorism of Hamas, which butchered 1,400 Israelis, including babies. My colleague, Representative Omar, has voted against Iron Dome, which is a missile defense system that protects Israeli civilians from relentless rockets. Were it not for the Iron Dome interceptions, there would be far more dead Israelis, far more by orders of magnitude. And so the policy positions that she has taken would have led to even more dead Israelis and more dead Palestinians.
Wow. Well, that's clear.
I
And true.
Boom.
Yeah.
Pardon it. I mean, he's
Mhm.
right. So on the one hand, she's decrying the deaths and, talking about how, we need to call for a de-escalation and ceasefire. This is terrible. But she won't vote for the policies that are designed to protect life. The Iron Dome is not an offensive system.
Yeah.
It's a defensive system. What's it defending? The rockets that are being hurled at Israel on a regular basis.
By the hundreds.
But she's not okay with that. Why is that?
Yeah, it's real. Well, I think it's clear. I mean, like I said, I have yet to see a distinction between pro-Palestine ideology and pro-Hamas ideology.
Mhm.
They're basically one and the same, effectively. And unless somebody actually comes out, unless you can actually corner somebody and get them to admit that Hamas's methods are not the way to free Palestine, then I will give you that one example. But I have yet to see that one example.
Yeah. It does make you wonder.
Yeah.
I've got a Sound of Music solution to the whole
Oh,
situation.
do you?
What's that?
Send the whole squad to the Alps.
There you go.
They can sing about the hills being alive.
Yes,
Kind of
yes,
music.
yes.
Good idea. Well, stick around, folks. When we come back, we're going to talk to none other than Speaker Tim Jones. You're listening to 1019 94.1.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 meteorologist Leah Hill. Going to be a bit of a dreary day as we have increasing cloud cover and a few spot showers are possible. Temperatures will still rise to near 80 degrees, and we'll start to see those rain chances increasing overnight to about 30%. Overnight lows reaching 66, and then tomorrow upper 70s, lower 80s. In fact, we're entering this stretch of unsettled weather that will last through Monday. That's your First Alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Leah Hill.
This is 1019 and 94.1.
I have to tell you, if this is how they're going to behave, I'm rethinking my position.
News Talk STL.
Vincent's Jewelers can help you pick the best gift for someone special. Another reason I like Vincent's has helped raise more than $1.5 million for local charities. Vincent's, locally owned, serving the community more than 42 years. Whenever I'm asked, what's your favorite jewelry store? My only jeweler is Vincent's on Olive, east of 270. Give Vincent's a chance to make you happy. Check for daily specials. Vincent's Jewelers Facebook or vincentsjewelers.com.
This is Larry Connor's commentary on News Talk STL.
A University of Virginia Center study shows a nation at war with itself. 52% of Biden supporters say Republicans are now a threat to American life. 47% of Trump supporters say the same about Democrats. Among Biden supporters, 41% believe violence is justified to stop Republicans, an identical number almost for Republicans to stop Democrats. And some 31% of Trump supporters believe the nation should explore alternative forms of government. 24% of Biden supporters question our democracy. Law professor Jonathan Turley adds, faith is one thing no system of government can do without. He said, we're seeing a steady diet of figures like MSNBC commentator calling the U.S. Constitution trash, then a New York Times column by a Yale and Harvard professor saying the Constitution is broken, should not be reclaimed. Turley points out this is not our first age of rage. In fact, during the past, he said we had people actually trying to kill each other over their politics, and that Thomas Jefferson would refer to his predecessor, John Adams, as a reign of the witches. We have come so far, and yet we haven't.
Get more Larry Connors on Larry Connors USA.
Tonight at 6 on News Talk STL.
This is Christina Straight with Straight Realty reminding you why pay more than $4. In 2003, we had a dream to start a real estate company that would revolutionize the real estate market. Now, 20 years later, after navigating through the many markets' ups and downs, we know exactly how to help you in this challenging time. I'm Christina Straight, owner Straight Realty. Don't give away your hard-earned equity. Give us a call today, 314-441-4444, 314-441-all-4s. And remember, why pay more than $4?
Straight Realty is a licensed broker in the state of Missouri.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. Ouch! Well, by wearing a small remote device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers. If you administer insulin 3 or more times per day or use an insulin pump, call now and learn how a CGM can help you.
Painless. No more pricking my finger.
No finger pricks.
Convenience. They delivered it free and they took care of all the paperwork.
You can reduce pain right away. Plus, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you spend more time in range. And if you have insurance, you can get a new CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. Call now and get free shipping of your new CGM. Plus, we'll bill your insurance for you. 800-432-8150. 800-432-8150. 800-432-8150. That's 800-432-8150.
Subscribe and watch your favorite News Talk STL shows. Like Ferguson in the Morning, The Vic Porcelli Show, Columbo and Katie, Jones and Arps. Webcam streaming on Facebook, Twitter, Rumble. Subscribe and watch News Talk STL.
Dan Bongino here. Keep it on News Talk STL because my show starts at 11 a.m. Right now, it's back to Mike Ferguson in the morning.
A man decides after 70 years that what he goes there for is to unlock the door.
See, the danger of playing good bumper music style is that I'm just going to sit here and listen to it and dance and bebop and start singing and forget that we're on the air.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're doing a radio show.
Oh, yeah.
Mike has that
It's
same problem.
radio thing. Good morning, folks. I'm Susie Moore. I'm filling in for Mike Ferguson on the Mike Ferguson Morning Show here on News Talk STL. Got Stell playing that fantastic bumper music. I got Gabe Pfeiffer here in studio with me. And because yesterday he was in the hot seat, I figured today, while I'm in the hot seat, I would have him back on as a guest so we could talk politics. Welcome, Speaker Tim Jones. How are you?
Good morning, Susie, Gabe, Stell. Susie, thank you so much for helping me out this week with the show, because yesterday I entered the radio studio at 5:30 in the morning. I left last night at 6:30 p.m. So I said, not today, Satan.
That's a long day.
Yeah,
That is
it
a
is.
long
Yes.
day. Even doing something you love, it is a long day. I can attest to that.
Right. We all love it. We all love pitching in. We're all happy that Mike gets to pursue his passions and dreams. I've told the story. I used to play adult old guys hockey back in the day, and I know why he has such passion for doing these things, and it's really cool. So,
and also why he has bad knees.
Great to hear you guys this morning. And Susie, thanks for giving me, thanks for doing the every other day thing with me this week. It's working out well.
Well, happy I could help. So, Tim, when I was putting this together, I was thinking, okay, who would be good to talk to about like all the craziness, all the dysfunction in Washington? Oh, I know somebody who was just there. You were just in DC, weren't you?
Absolutely. So I was able to tell this story a few weeks ago when it happened, and every time I retell it, people are it's still fresh, and people are still amazed because we've never seen this before. Not only not in our lifetimes ever, we've never seen this. And what I'm talking about is literally watching history being made with the motion to vacate the speaker. And I served in the Missouri House, as many people know, for 8 years. And so you make a lot of friends. You make a lot of enemies, too. I'm not on their Christmas card list anymore. But the friendships are lasting because you are working with people literally in the belly of the beast. You're in the arena, as the late President Teddy Roosevelt talked about in that great arena speech he gave. And so, it's not war. I'm not gonna try to conflate something that it's not. But you are battling on issues of public policy, and trust me, things get pretty heated and things get pretty rough, as you've seen in Washington D.C. And so, one of my very good friends is now Congressman Eric Burleson, Eric was a state representative with me. Then he went to the state Senate. Lord knows why. But then he had the opportunity to run for Congress, and I couldn't be more proud of the fact that. The next best thing to, you being in Congress, which I'm not sure I'd want to be there or not, but because I've talked to Eric recently, and I can tell that as humbled as he is to be there, and as awe-inspiring of a responsibility that is, and that's how Eric views it. Eric is such a humble guy, and I have no worries about a guy like Eric going to Washington D.C. A lot of people lose their way up there. It's a really easy town to lose your way in. As one of my cousins who used to work in D.C. She worked for the government. She worked for Homeland Security. She used to say, Tim, Washington, D.C. is Hollywood for ugly people. So, it's really easy to lose your way, especially if you're an elected official, right? Because that means you're a congressman or a U.S. senator. Two of the most exclusive membership clubs in the world.
It's true.
And so, all day long, people are telling you how awesome you are and how funny your jokes are. And you've got a lot of power. You're either one of a 435 or you're one of 100. And you're in the two, arguably top legislative bodies in the country. I don't think it should be viewed that way, right? I think that we've really turned the idea of federalism upside down and on its head, where we've empowered the federal government. So it is kind of like Hollywood, it shouldn't be that way. The states are where the power and where the glitz and glamour should be. But unfortunately, we've gone down that road. So Eric, I was up in DC, and I was communicating with him on that Tuesday morning. I didn't know that they were even in session that day or not, because I kind of lost track with the whole continuing resolution fight. And there was this threat out there from Matt Gaetz that he might file the motion. And I asked Eric if he was in town. He goes, not only am I in town, we're heading over to the Capitol. Where are you? Get over here. You're going to get to watch history because we're about to do the motion to vacate. And I was like, holy Toledo. So run over to the Capitol, and he put me up in the upper gallery, kind of on the member staff side where there wasn't as many people, which is great. So I was able to kind of spread out, and I was right above the gallery. I had bird's eye view. You see all these people you see on TV all the time, right? I'm like, oh, there's Marjorie Taylor Greene. Oh, there's Lauren Boebert. There's Thomas Massey. There's Chip Roy. There's Eric Burleson, and they're all running around talking to each other. And between the votes, there was a ton of procedural votes, as there always is on anything. That's one reason why DC is so slow. It's like they got to vote 30 times to vote on the thing, and you have to debate all that. And so I was kind of used to that in Missouri, but we didn't have nearly as much parliamentary procedure as they do in DC. So between the votes, Eric would come up and tell me what was going on actually down the floor and the conversations he was having. And I could tell it wasn't. Eric is a staunch member of the House Freedom Caucus, but he also does not want to waste his citizens or his constituents or his taxpayers' time. And so he knew, it's like Eric's a smart guy. It's like he knew that even though Eric Burleson, Congressman Burleson, wasn't overly thrilled with Kevin McCarthy, he ended up supporting McCarthy eventually. And he was like, we're actually kind of operationally functional this year. We're actually getting we're getting more done in the last 9 months than Congress has gotten done for the American people in a positive way over the last couple decades. And so he didn't really understand. He said, I don't think this was before it happened, right before it happened. He goes, I don't think there's a plan B. Well, he was right, wasn't he? Because there was no plan. There was no plan B, C, D, E, or F. We went from Kevin McCarthy to no Kevin McCarthy to, okay, what would be the next logical step? If DC operated logically, which it doesn't, you would put Steve Scalise in the number 2, right? You all obviously supported Steve Scalise as the number 2. You literally made him the majority leader. That's a vote as well in the caucus, right? And so now we don't like the number 2. We don't like Steve Scalise. How about the number 3? How about Jim Jordan? He'll be fine. Well, the moderates didn't like him. So now we've gone backwards. Now we've gone to maybe these 9, which if there's 9 guys, I'm not a math major. I leave that up to Gabe Pfeiffer. He's the smart one in the bunch. But I do know this, that if you need 217 votes to become speaker and there's only 222 people in the chamber on a good day, that if 9 people are saying they want to be speaker, the math doesn't work out and you still don't have anyone near 217. Am I right, Gabe?
That's true.
No, I think that's solid math. Well, I mean, I think it goes back to the whole idea. It's like, okay, however it shakes out in caucus, whoever you choose to be the person that you're nominating, then you got to all get behind them.
Right.
I mean, they're not even agreeing that if that's the person that gets the majority, then they'll get the support. What is
Susie Moore? You just hit the nail on the head. Yes, that's how it used to work.
Yeah,
that's how it worked. I don't know if they did this back in the 1800s or not, but that's how this worked in the modern age. And I know that because that's how it works in state legislatures as well. Most state legislatures model themselves after the rules and procedures, policies and customs of the U.S. House. That's how we do it in Missouri. So, Susie, you're exactly right. It doesn't matter if it's Democrats or Republicans in power in any house in the country or in the U.S. House. They go into their conference. Some people refer to it as a caucus. They go into their closed-door caucus meeting. They decide who's our next leadership team. Everybody votes for it. And unless you have a situation where it's like, okay, well, 112 people want this person, but 111 people want this person. Okay, maybe in that situation you've got a conundrum on your hands. But if someone's got the clear, simple majority, right, of the majority, Susie, you're right. Then you go to the House floor, and you know what it becomes at that point? It becomes a procedural vote. Right. You know why it becomes a procedural vote? Because the majority needs to show the minority that they are going to govern and they are going to rule, and we are going to move forward on the majority's agenda, right? If they can't show that, then they're showing the minority what? That they don't want to govern as the majority. They are dysfunctional. They're not interested in being in power, and they can't govern for you know what. So that's why it's important that, back in the day, back 5 minutes ago, that's how it had been. And so now you've got personality politics, right? Everybody's going to fundraise. Everybody's going to nationalize their fundraising. Everybody's going to be on Newsmax or Fox News or have a piece up on Red State. And so it's become personality, popularity politics. It's a horrible way to run a railroad and a federal government.
Not only that, I agree with you 100%, but it doesn't just show the minority that they don't want to lead and that they're dysfunctional. It shows the entire country. And it shows their prospective voters that they are not capable of leading. So, I mean, I hope they get it figured out today. Do you have any predictions or thoughts about what may happen today?
At this point, no, and I don't think anybody else does either. I think you could interview any congressman or woman you want right now, and I don't think they can tell you where they're going either. And the problem is we have yet another fiscal cliff because it's Washington, D.C., so why not have another fiscal cliff, right? So the upcoming fiscal cliff, I looked it up yesterday. The next CR is due to, the next CR or budget is due to be voted on and passed, if they get to that point, on November the 17th. It's October the 24th. Once again, not that great at math, but 7 days left this month? And so they have 24 days. They got about 24 days. They got a little over 3 weeks to figure all this out. Or then, so Susie, I agree with you. Right now, I think people are like, this is kind of an interesting distraction. And most people who have lives and businesses to run and kids and parents to take care of, or whatever the case may be in your life, people have other challenges and crises. They're sort of paying attention to this, but not much. But when you have a confluence of crises, when you have a looming budget issue that's going to cause a government shutdown, and the House doesn't have a speaker, then I think you're talking about lasting damage if you don't fix this. If you fix this in the next week or so, and as Gabe and I were talking about yesterday, you have 11 months to then lurch from one new crisis to another, probably largely created by the Biden administration, then I think this is going to be something that people will sort of remember, but not much, and they won't care by next November.
I think you're right.
So I don't know who they're going to coalesce around, but they better start coalescing quickly, and they better stop navel gazing and worrying about how many clicks they're going to get on Twitter and Facebook today. They better take a step back and look at the fact that they were chosen by the majority of the American people. Slim as it was, they were the ones chosen to lead and govern, and they are violating that first duty and responsibility that they swore that they would do. And so I as Chris and I discussed on our afternoon show yesterday, they've really got to figure this out before the end of this week.
Let's hope so. Well, Tim, I guess you're going to be on the air again this afternoon, right, with Chris?
Yes, we will be back at it today. I know that we've got David Stokes from the Show Me Institute and a lot of other great guests. So we'll listen to you all, finish up the awesome morning show, and listen to the rest of our great products. And then Chris and I'll be back on the air at 4 p.m. today to see what other calamities have arisen across the grid.
Well, fantastic. Appreciate you taking time out of your morning to join us, Tim, and give us a little bit more insight on what's going on up in Washington. We'll look forward to hearing you later this afternoon.
Thank you, Susie and gang. You all continue to have a great show.
Thanks, sir.
All right. Well, a little more insight there. A little more inside baseball. All right. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back right after this. 1019 94.1.
A man decides after 70 years that what he goes there for is to unlock the door.
For podcasts, articles, and more, find us on newstalkstl.com. Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Through a fractal on a breaking wall, I see you, my friend, and touch your face again.
Investment advisory services offered through OWLFI LLC, a SEC registered investment advisor. Insurance and education services offered through Serenity Wealth Management.
Are you or someone you know providing or managing care for a loved one today? Did you know there could be more cost-efficient solutions for funding long-term care, even those currently living in a skilled care facility today? Financial strategist and long-term care specialist Chris Cooper of Serenity Wealth Management can show you tax-efficient strategies available to help your family manage care concerns, whether planning for the future or managing care for a loved one today. Solutions exist to provide the financial peace of mind you deserve.
Hi, I'm Chris Cooper, and I'd love to send you a free copy of my new book, A CPA's Guide to Tax-Free Strategies for Long-Term Care. You'll learn about strategies to empower you and your family, protect your savings, and make sure your loved ones get the quality of care they deserve.
Request your free copy of Chris's book by visiting serenityltc.com. That's serenityltc.com.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
April Haskins, Executive Director, Dogs for Our Brave.
Because they're mobility service dogs, they can go get medication bottles. They can pick up the phone. So essentially, when they are living with a family, the cool part is watching the wife or the husband or the kids go back to just being the family. Because now that dog is able to come in and truly provide services that the family's been tasked with.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps, weekdays at 4 on News Talk STL.
I heard the call to serve, so I answered. I earned a title and discovered my purpose. I found belonging, an unbreakable bond with my fellow Marines. We fought to overcome adversity together in defense of our nation and its people. I've lived a full life, rich with meaning. And even though I no longer wear the uniform, I am still a Marine. My service has come full circle. I will always look after those around me. I will always uplift and support my country and my community. Because that is the promise I made. That is what it means to be a Marine. Semper Fidelis. Always faithful, always Marine.
This hour of Mike Ferguson in the Morning brought to you by Window World. Simply the best for less. 314-993-1800 or visit windowworld.com.
Good morning, St. Louis. It's Ben Shapiro. I'll talk to you tonight at 11. But right now, back to the Mike Ferguson Show on the new conservative voice of St. Louis, 1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Funny how things come full circle. I knew Ben Shapiro way back in the day.
Oh, yeah?
Way back in
That's
like
funny.
when the conservative movement was just kind of getting its
Getting its legs on
getting its legs, the Tea
Mhm.
Party movement, all that stuff, and he was with Breitbart. And,
Oh, yeah, Breitbart.
Yep.
Gone too soon.
Definitely gone too soon. Boy, wouldn't he be interesting to have his take
Oh,
on?
man.
Andrew Breitbart, boy.
So
those were the days.
He was somebody. He was a master of Twitter back when it was just plain old Twitter.
Oh, yeah.
And that's how a lot of us got involved in the whole movement, if you will. So Gabe, I know you know this because you're on Twitter a lot too, and
Mhm.
we often see each other's things and like
Yep.
things and respond, that sort of thing. So I do a lot of my thinking out loud on Twitter.
Yeah.
And yesterday I happened across an AP headline that says Central America scrambles as the international community fails to find solution to record migration. Okay. Record migration.
Record migration.
Record migration.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
Central America's scrambling. And, we've been hearing a lot of the sort of unrest in Europe
Mhm.
over.
Oh, gosh, yes.
And obviously we've got a southern border crisis here in the U.S.
Mhm.
But seeing that headline prompted me to ask, record migration in which direction and to which destinations?
Yes.
Why?
Yeah, it's a good question. These are the types of questions that journalists ask when confronted with a sort of situation in reality. Why is this happening?
Yeah.
What are the details of the situation? What are the causes?
Right.
What could the possible solutions
Are you
be?
going to look for root causes?
Yeah,
Because
I know.
Kamala dropped the
Okay,
ball.
you're not supposed to do that. I'm sorry.
And real journalists would investigate.
Yes, they actually would look into these things.
But think about it. If you take a big, from the moon, look down at Earth
Mhm.
and the migration patterns that we're seeing, we're
Mhm.
we're not animals, we're people. But
Yes.
people are moving in certain directions
Mhm.
within the United States.
Mhm.
We're seeing people move from blue states to red states. There's a
Yes.
mass exodus out
Mhm.
of states like California, Illinois, New York for greener pastures in red states.
Yes.
But across the world, you're seeing a mass exodus of people from South and Central America
Mhm.
up north, and in Europe from the Middle East
And Africa.
North Africa and Europe. Why is that the flow of migration?
Yeah, and I can answer that question.
Oh, what is it?
I
Tell me,
think
tell me.
it's the welfare state and an open border.
Oh,
Yeah, see the welfare state is the magnet, and the open border is just the wide open valve through which everything passes for the path of least resistance towards the thing that's drawing them.
You know what? Here's your Pulitzer Prize.
Congratulations!
Gabe.
Oh wow! I just and if I wrote a well-worded article in it, could I get a I'm trying to remember what the journalistic
Pulitzer.
Yeah, Pulitzer. You're right.
Pulitzer
Sorry.
Prize.
For some reason my head went to Nobel, but that's where my
Well,
head
we'll
is
give you
always.
one of those too.
You can get both.
I can get both. Yes, that's what I want.
Obama can get one for not doing anything in the first week of his administration.
For being Obama. Yes, he got one for being Obama.
So you deserve one for doing so much.
I think you're right, Stel. I'm going to put in my application.
We could always use more investigative journalists at Red State. Gabe, so,
Oh no,
just
I don't
hit
need
me
a
up.
third job.
But seriously, it's like all this discussion going on everywhere that has to do with migration, immigration, illegal immigration, all those things. And we're not talking about could we, let's really look at what's going on here and ask ourselves, okay, first of all, what's drawing people in a certain direction?
Yeah.
What are they leaving? What are they trying to get away from? Why are we trying to replicate what they're trying to get away from?
That's another thing too.
What is
Yeah, when you look at the situation in its entirety, it's just, it makes no sense. It's very crazy, which is one of the reasons why it drives me nuts. I always try to understand people's points of view. So I really do try to put myself into their mind state and limit myself and my understanding to whatever they're looking at.
Right.
Say, okay, if I lived in this bubble and I believe these certain ideological things, does this make sense? And it still doesn't. That's the problem. It still doesn't make sense, even if I were to put myself in their ideological shoes.
we are nonsensical people, apparently.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, coming up after this, we're going to be talking to Linda Harold, who is a volunteer with me at Dirk's Fund. We're going to find out all about Dirk's Fund and a big trivia night coming up. And then later on in the 8 o'clock hour, we're going to be talking to Brad Slager of Red State about the media and its malpractice. So stick around, folks. You're listening to 101.9, 94.1.
What happens next?
Citizens of Israel, we are at war, not in an operation or in rounds, but at war.
Happens right here.
Hamas entered our communities. It was the worst nightmare ever.
250 Israelis are dead.
The next stage of this operation will be the response.
Let's make no mistake. This is an Iranian-backed assault and war.
101.9 and 94.1.
My administration's support for Israel's security is rock solid and unwavering.
News Talk STL.
Hey, I'd like you to get to know Dr. Daniel Cusimano and Dr. Megan Dwyer. Those are dentists and my dental team, along with their dental team at Advanced Dentistry of St. Charles. You know, whether it's economic value with their dental savings plan and their real concern about giving you value, which is, of course, quality at a great price, or whether it's their personal values, their dedication to absolute precision. I can tell you when I go in and get my treatment there, or just a cleaning, whatever, it's always, I get this feeling it's like laser-guided precision. Well, yeah, they have lasers, but they don't do that for everything. Of course, it's the right tool for the right job. Whether it is dental implants, whether it's just general dentistry, cosmetic dentistry, and by the way, he can use some Botox in all the right ways for those applications as well. You'll find the greatest of care, the greatest value delivered with people who have real values, the values we share at Advanced Dentistry of St. Charles. Get to know them by calling 636-978-0226, 636-978-0226, or advanceddentistrynow.com. That's Advanced Dentistry of St. Charles.
News Talk STL is proud to have Doug Voss of Safe Money Radio as part of our lineup each week. Doug has been a staple on St. Louis radio for many years as one of the leading financial experts in the area. Doug and Safe Money Radio is on 3 times every weekend, but in case you miss anything, you can check it all out at DougVossSafeMoneyRadio.com or call 844-676-SAFE. That's 844-676-7233. Doug Voss is a registered representative. Securities offered through DHL Securities, LLLP. Member FINRA and SIPC.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Belfast, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 101.9, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason. Although Hamas has freed a handful of hostages it took during its brutal attack on Israeli civilians, more than 200 others still being held. The National Security Council's John Kirby claims the Biden administration is going all out to find and free the Americans among them.
We still have about 10 unaccounted for Americans, and it's not exactly clear to us where those 10 people are.
The Pentagon sending more military gear to the Mideast as well as U.S. advisors.
In addition to troops being deployed to the region, the U.S. is sending sophisticated air defense systems to the Middle East. The White House says the moves are aimed at preventing the war from spilling over.
The whole reason we're sending that stuff over there is to prevent any widening or deepening of this particular war. It's all about deterrence.
John Kirby with the National Security Council also said the Pentagon is dispatching some top military officials to Israel to help in its war planning. Greg Clugston, Washington.
House Republicans, they'll try again today to pick a nominee for Speaker of the House.
Republicans found themselves back at square one on Monday, nearly 3 weeks since former Speaker Kevin McCarthy's historic ouster on October 3rd. 8 Republican lawmakers are now running to replace McCarthy. None of them, however, have a clear shot at winning. 9 candidates made their case to their colleagues Monday evening during a closed-door candidate forum, but one of them dropped out. House Republicans are scheduled to vote to narrow the list down even further on Tuesday morning. Edwin Mora, Washington.
China's top diplomat visits the U.S. this week. Foreign Minister Wang Yi due in Washington for a 3-day visit starting on Thursday, due to meet with Secretary of State Antony Blinken as well as National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan. Watching Wall Street ahead of the opening bell this morning, the Dow futures up 154 points. More on these stories at townhall.com.
The following is not an actor, but a real-life story from Trinity Debt Management.
I'm Corey, and this is my story. I was going through some financial troubles paying off my credit cards. I was paying high interest rates, and it just wasn't getting any better. And I knew I had to do something. So my mom told me about Trinity, and so I decided to call. Trinity was able to do something that I couldn't. I'm paying off my debt. I'm saving thousands, and things are really looking up. I promise you guys, you will not regret it when you call Trinity, because it was such a relief and less stress in my life, and it was the best thing I could have done for myself, because once I called Trinity, they took care of me and I felt such a relief, a weight off my shoulders. Trinity was great to work with. They wanted to help me. I love it.
If you're in debt and you need help, call Trinity at 1-800-990-6976.
I'm Corey, and I'm debt-free for keeps.
1-800-990-6976.
From the Michael's Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 meteorologist Leah Hill. Going to be a bit of a dreary day as we have increasing cloud cover and a few spot showers are possible. Temperatures will still rise to near 80 degrees, and we'll start to see those rain chances increasing overnight to about 30%. Overnight lows reaching 66, and then tomorrow upper 70s, lower 80s. In fact, we're entering this stretch of unsettled weather that will last through Monday. That's your First Alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Leah Hill.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Chris Cooper and Serenity Wealth Management. Discover little-known strategies that could be the difference between choosing the care you deserve or having someone else decide it for you. Get a free copy of Chris's book at serenityltc.com.
Hi, Sean Long for STL FenceWorks. STL FenceWorks is proud and excited to install American-made aluminum and vinyl fence products, as well as American-made decking. For instance, STL FenceWorks has teamed up with Jareth Manufacturing. Jareth invented the aluminum fence industry over 50 years ago. The Jareth product is wholly sourced and manufactured in the U.S., and STL FenceWorks is the third largest Jareth customer in the world. STL FenceWorks is vinyl fencing also, and not just white. We partner with National Vinyl Products to provide you with tan, clay, gray, and variegated wood grain vinyl fence products too, all made in the U.S. Not to be forgotten, STL FenceWorks is maintenance-free decking. STL FenceWorks is the #1 distributor of Wolf Cellular PVC in the Midwest, proudly manufactured in the U.S. and voted #1 maintenance-free decking product in the United States. Let STL FenceWorks make your outdoor space magical. Visit stlfenceworks.com today and learn how we can make your backyard dreams into a reality. At STL FenceWorks, your satisfaction is our passion.
Mike Ferguson.
Are you pretending to be crazy? Wow, you're really pumped about this.
Gabe Pfeiffer. Get up, St. Louis.
The best answer to the toxicity of the left is the truth.
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
Get up, this is your cousin.
Welcome back, folks. You're listening to the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show on News Talk STL. Susie Moore filling in for Mike today. Got Stell Ponticus keeping me up right here while we get through the morning with you. And we're going to now change things up a little bit and talk about something about a little bit lighter in tone than what we've been talking about. Anybody who follows me on social media or who's listened to me talk at any point in time or read some of my writings knows that I have a big place in my heart for puppy dogs. I know Stell does too.
Yes, indeed. Our four-legged friends.
Our four-legged friends. They are near and dear to me. And years and years and years ago, I adopted a golden retriever from an organization called Dirk's Fund. They're a large breed rescue organization, and originally started out, I think, as a golden rescue organization, and they've kind of branched out from there. But I adopted Pringle, and Pringle was the best dog ever. Sadly, I lost him in October of 2019, and I wasn't ready to get a new dog at that point. I didn't want to do that right away, but I knew I needed a dog fix. So I reached out to Dirk's Fund, and I started volunteering there at the shelter, which is in Pacific, as you know, Stell. And I am there every Saturday morning, pretty much, helping take care of the doggos and clean up their kennels and their messes and that sort of thing. And it's a wonderful organization, and I will brag on it from now to the end of time. But I'm really, really honored and pleased right now to be joined by one of my fellow volunteers there, Linda Harold. Good morning, Linda. How are you?
Hi, how are you doing this morning? Thank you for having me.
Doing great. Really appreciate you being on with us. I wanted to have you on for a couple of reasons. First of all, to tell folks who aren't familiar with Dirk's Fund a little bit about it, and how you got involved with it.
Well, as you know, Dirk's Fund was started in the 80s by Bob and Ona Tilley. They started by rehoming golden retrievers, and then in the 1990s, they incorporated as Dirk's Fund. Dirk was a Great Pyrenees mountain dog that they rescued, and that's where the name came from. So in the 90s, they incorporated, they became a 501c3, they got their Missouri tax exemption status, and we've been adopting dogs out ever since. And trying to think, 2007, I think it was, I was living in Southern Illinois and had a golden, but wanted to work with rescue, but we didn't have a golden rescue down there. So I contacted Bob, came up to Kennelwood, where they were doing adoptions at that time. And I said, I want to volunteer. And he said, what do you want to do that for?
That sounds just like Bob.
It does, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
And I said, yes. So I've been volunteering pretty much ever since. I took a little bit of a few years hiatus, but now I'm back and jumped right back in.
And speaking of jumping right back in, are you there at the shelter now?
I am. Can you hear the
I can hear them. Tell them I said hi.
I'm in the front office. I was trying to get as far away as I could.
No, it's okay. Well, it's a familiar sound to me. I'm used to them, and then every once in a while they go quiet, and you're like, what are they doing? Why is everybody quiet?
Right.
So
what's going on out there?
Tell folks a little bit about the shelter itself. I know when I adopted Pringle, I don't think they had the facility yet. They were using Pacific Animal Hospital, which is where my fellow News Talk STL host Tim Jones' dad started Pacific Animal Hospital, Dr. Jones.
How about that?
Small world. But so so they've been over there in the shelter where they are now, which is right across from Pacific High School for, I'm guessing, 10, 12 years?
Oh, probably at least that. Yeah. When I started, they were adopting out of Kennelwood over on off of Manchester, and everybody was a foster. But then when Pacific Animal Hospital built their new facility here in Pacific, Dirk's Fund leased their old facility, which is on Warpath Drive, right across from the high school. And it's a really nice facility. We have big indoor cages for every dog. We have a big outdoor pen for every dog. We have 5 running yards that we can take the dogs out and let them run and play. We have a number of great volunteers, of which you are one, that help run this shelter, and we couldn't do without them.
Yeah. And I mean, sometimes people don't really understand, I mean, it's a building that's been repurposed for our purposes, but the inside cages where the dogs stay, they're good size. They're, I mean, 4x6 at least, if not larger. They have room to move around. They're not just in kennels.
Right. I think the inside cages are about 6 by 8. The outside cages are larger than that. They're probably more like 8 by 10.
Yeah. And they definitely get room to move around, and they get their beds and they get their toys and they get their love and treats from all the volunteers. And the nice thing about the yards, you mentioned the 5 yards, we just did an upgrade project where we kind of redid the fencing and the configuration of the 5 yards so that we can actually have 5 different dogs out all at once running and playing. And most of them like to run along the fence with each other and have fun while they're out there.
Oh yeah, they have a great time out there. The 5 yards are wonderful. They're good sized yards, so they can play. And a lot of times the dogs, in fences next to each other, they'll run up and down the fence and play with each other through the fence, and they just have a big time out there.
Yeah, that's good times, good fun for the dogs, and good fun for the volunteers. But of course, the organization could not operate without the donations and support of both volunteers and people that donate financially to the organization. And one of the big fundraisers for it is coming up here in December. They're gonna have a trivia night, right?
Right. Dirt Fund operates totally on donations and what fundraising that we can do. Some rescues do get state or county funding, but we don't get anything like that. We only have income on donations, fundraisers, and adoption. Our big fundraiser every year is the annual trivia night. This is our 17th annual trivia night. It's Saturday, December 2nd. It's at the Kirkwood Community Center, and the doors open at 6, and the trivia starts at 7.
And I went to this for the first time last year. And I mean, my boyfriend and I go to lots of trivia nights. We're kind of trivia night geeks. And when we walked in, I was floored because, I mean, I've probably been to 20 or 30 trivia nights in the past 10 years. And this one was huge. I mean, I don't even know how many tables there were. There were a bunch. Tons of auction items, tons of ways for people to participate, and a well-run trivia night. So if you are a trivia night buff, highly recommend doing this one. It's for a table of 8, it's $200. That money goes to Dirk's Fund and helps pay for all manner of expenses and costs. Tell our listeners a little bit about, what are the various expenses that Dirk's Fund incurs.
Well, our biggest expense is the veterinary bills. Our veterinary bills run anywhere from about $2,000 to $7,000 a month. So that is our biggest expense. We only have one paid person, and that's a woman who comes on Mondays and Thursdays, and she cleans as well as takes care of the dogs those days. So everything else is run by volunteers.
Right.
And then we have the usual, lights and water and all of that kind of stuff.
Food.
Food.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I forgot food.
No,
That's a big one.
That's a big one too. Yeah. And I can give a little personal testimony to the value of the veterinary care. First of all, they get quality veterinary care there at Pacific Animal Hospital. But as somebody who just adopted Daisy after fostering her, Daisy was a poor sick little puppy last year, about a year ago when I got her. She was little. She was only 8 weeks old, and she had some serious digestive issues, some serious problems with her digestive tract, and got to the point in middle December when we weren't sure that she was going to make it, and she needed some extra special care. So she got that care at the University of Missouri Columbia and had a surgery that helped address the issue, but was no guarantee. But the blessing is that she came through it with flying colors, and now she's a year-old monster of a dog. Who can't
We are so glad that Daisy did so well.
She's our little miracle. She can't sit still. She wiggles. And I know you can't see this, but I'm going to hold this up to the camera here in studio. I've got a flyer for a trivia night that tells all the information about it, all where it is and everything like that. And Daisy was kind enough yesterday to try and chew it up. So it's in tatters now. But she is a happy, healthy puppy and a testament to the great work that Dirk's Fund does. So grateful for that. And
Susie,
yes,
I would like to tell people that if they would like to get a table,
mm-hmm.
the best thing to do, so that I don't give you hordes of information over at this venue,
right.
is to go out to our website, which is dirksfund.com,
Mm-hmm.
and there is a flyer on the website, and that tells you how to reserve a table.
Yeah, that's the best way to do it. Definitely check it out. They've got a Facebook page too, but the website will give you the flyer, give you all the information about the trivia night. I highly encourage people to get involved and do that. If you like having a fun evening out with friends, this is a great way to do it, and it's for a fantastic cause. And can't say enough about Dirk's Fund. So, Linda, I really appreciate you coming on and telling us about it.
And you know what's even better about the flyer, Linda, is the flyer's not chewed on online.
That's
the
true.
one on your website doesn't have the corner missing. Give us some specifics real quick on the date and times for the fundraiser, because it is in Kirkwood.
It's in Kirkwood. It's Saturday, December 2nd. The doors open at 6 and it starts at 7. It's at the Kirkwood Community Center. We have room for 50 tables, and there are quite a few already taken, but we still have some left. So please come join us. You'll have a great time. There's a lot of silent auction items. There's a 50-50 drawing. We have beer. We have wine. We have wine pool, raffle. So please come on out.
Absolutely. And once again, Linda, what's the website they can check out?
It's Dirk's Fund, DIRKSFUND.com.
Great. Linda, thank you so much for joining me this morning. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you having me.
All right. Thank you. Well, thanks for indulging me, Stell.
That was fun.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a cause close to my heart, obviously, and it's a worthy cause. And I'm glad we could let folks know about it. I really hope people will follow up and join us on the trivia night. Appreciate that. So stick around. You know what? We're going to come back and talk a little bit more about the news of the day here on News Talk STL 1019 94.1.
Don't try to make me stop. No inspiration. You have a soul sewn up. It is no more. And all at once depart. No destination.
Like and subscribe to us on Rumble. News Talk STL.
Stop right now. I have had enough of this. Turn my eyes to your indifference. Stop right now.
Get up, St. Louis. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Can't you hear the alarm? Get up, this is your cousin.
The Herzog Foundation is the vision of its founder, Stanley Herzog, and it exists to promote and accelerate the development of quality Christ-centered K-12 education.
Hi, this is Daryl Jones, president of the Herzog Foundation. We have an exciting new training opportunity available for public school and Christian school teachers. The Herzog Foundation Institute has partnered with the Bill of Rights Institute to offer 4 training events in 4 Missouri cities this year. These day-long professional development opportunities are best suited for middle and high school civics, government, U.S. history, and social studies teachers. Middle and high school teachers have a unique opportunity to strengthen civic knowledge and values for the next generation. We want to help teachers seize this opportunity.
Visit herzogfoundation.com/events to learn more and register for a Bill of Rights Institute training event near you. herzogfoundation.com/events. herzogfoundation.com/events.
Tim Jones here to announce that Professional Irrigation Systems is now Pro Outdoor. The change reflects their commitment to the innovation of the industry, expansion of services they offer that our family has used for years. Lawn fertilization, landscape maintenance, outdoor lighting, of course, irrigation. Their commitment to their customers remains the highest priority. Same team, same awesome equipment, same quality of service you've come to know and love. To learn more about their services, including fall specials, call them 636-565-0196 or anytime 24/7 at ProOutdoor.com. That's ProOutdoor.com.
This is so stupid.
St. Louis's.
Okay, I'm hanging up on you now.
Place to talk. News Talk STL.
Hi, it's Randy Tobler here. Pour a big cup of coffee and catch my show every Saturday morning from 6 to 9. Right now, it's back to Mike Ferguson in the morning here on News Talk STL.
Welcome back, folks. You are listening to the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show on News Talk STL. Susie Moore filling in for Mike today. Honored to be doing that. Appreciate Stell being in here with me. Help me get through all this. Help us get you guys some information and hopefully some helpful information. I really, again, want to encourage people to follow up, check out dirksfund.com and go sign up for that trivia night if you can, because we appreciate the support. It's for a good cause.
You know, I didn't realize that, and you may have told me this and I had forgotten about it, but I didn't realize Dirk's Fund was set up around a Great Pyrenees dog.
Oh, I would say, so it originally started out, the whole premise of it was to rescue golden retrievers.
Uh-huh.
So it was a golden rescue. But then they started taking in just kind of all large breed dogs. And Great Pyrenees are this, like today, I would say 50 to 70% of our dogs are Great Pyrenees.
Oh my.
Yeah. On any given day at the shelter, we may have, 12, 14 dogs. 6 of them will be Great Pyrenees. And I'm not sure why that is. They're great. They're great dogs. They're particular dogs, though. I think sometimes people get, they adopt them and without really researching the breed, and they don't recognize that they've got some particular needs and things like that. But they're so wonderful. They're like big teddy bears.
Yeah, they're awesome.
Yeah. No, I love them. I would take them all home if I could.
And for folks listening who don't know what they look like, they're big, white, fluffy balls.
Yeah, they're like big polar bears.
Yes.
Yep. No, they're dear ones, and yeah. And for people that are interested in adopting, that's the other thing I should have said earlier too. Do check out Dirk's Fund either through the Facebook page or through the website. And I know they have adoption hours on Saturday and Sunday. You can go out and kind of meet the dogs and see if there's one that suits your fancy. They are particular about who they'll adopt to. They want to make sure that you have the right environment for the dog. They want to make sure you got a fenced yard. They'll do a home visit, that sort of thing, because they don't want the dogs either coming back or something bad happening to them. People that volunteer their time here at Dirk's Fund really love the dogs and want the best for them, and that's what we're all about. So again, appreciate indulging me and getting to talk about that. That's like lighter stuff and happier stuff to talk about than most of what we've been talking about today. And unfortunately, we're going to go back to some of the less light stuff. Gabe was mentioning this earlier, Stell, and I think I know what it was he was referring to. I'm not going to go through all of this, but there's a poll that was posted. It was a Harris-Harvard poll about the situation in Israel. And in the latest Harris-Harvard poll, 76% of American voters say that the Hamas killing of 1,200 Israeli civilians, we think it's more like 1,400 now, on Israel in Israel cannot be justified by the grievances of Palestinians. Well, okay. Agree. 76%. You can't justify what was done. 24% say it can be justified. That's 24%. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of people. And as Gabe mentioned, it kind of breaks down the younger you get, the more people there are that do believe it was justified. And I do feel like there is a, not insignificant portion of that people that are answering that question that are maybe not really thinking all the way through what they're saying. They're so wrapped up in this idea of freedom for Palestine, freedom for Palestinians. They've been oppressed. They live in an open air prison, which they can leave and go work in Israel or that sort of thing. But whatever. I mean, I understand the sentiment of thinking that Palestinians have been oppressed and are trying to fight for their freedom. And you can argue the geopolitics one way or the other, but the bottom line is I understand that empathy for that situation. Our country started out as freedom fighters. So when you couch it in those terms, I understand the empathy. I don't understand that in the face of the absolute horror and barbarity that was visited on the Israeli people on October 7th. I don't understand saying, okay, well, because they're fighting for their freedom, taking out, 1,000+ civilians and children and elderly people and, people that were not involved directly in this fight in barbarous, horrific ways is justified. And I don't know if there's a huge section of people that just have lost that part of their humanity and just don't connect that. I'm not sure what's driving that. So it's like, it's weird. I can get to the point of understanding why you have empathy for Palestine or Palestinians. I can't get to the point where you think it's justified what was done.
And the barbaric methods
Yeah.
are totally bizarre. I can't figure out exactly how anybody could even support anything like that.
It is mind-boggling. I know yesterday that I think it was the IDF, Israel invited a cohort of foreign journalists to sit in, and they were shown some of the GoPro video, the raw video from the day that happened. And the reason that they said that they were going to go ahead and do this was because already we're seeing this level of denialism. I mean, you have to be willing to write off the people that are just, 100% Israel's bad. Everything associated with Israel's bad. There's always going to be a segment of people that feel that way. But for people who don't just see it that way, but somehow, even watching the news reports, even watching, our leaders and leaders from other countries and people from Israel themselves describe what happened, and they're still denying it. I don't. Is it self-preservation?
Well, there's a whole segment of folks, and I don't understand this part either, who are claiming that the Palestinians deserve a certain section of land. Well, this has been established as Israeli land. There are 20 plus Arab nations in that area, Northern Africa and the Middle East. None of them have reached out to say, you know what, you guys can come here. We'll go ahead and set apart a certain portion of our country, and you guys can settle here, and let's solve this situation. I haven't seen that hand of assistance from any of them at all, other than maybe Egypt saying, okay, we can let some of the humanitarian aid go through. But I don't see any of the countries saying, let's open up some of our area, because there's certainly plenty of it out there, and let's let the Palestinians resettle here.
Right. And note, Egypt is letting humanitarian aid in.
Yes.
They're not letting Gazan refugees out. They're not letting them come to Egypt. And that's, that's a part of this whole fraught situation. You've got.
That's the same with the other countries, Lebanon and the others, Syria. They're not allowing them in.
Right. And so, it's something that has been, you could argue it's been going on for thousands of years, or, for 70 years, however you want to look at it.
Biblically, yes, thousands of years.
And there's no easy answer to it. But one thing that isn't the answer is what happened on October 7th.
Correct.
And I think it's very, to me, that is as clear a line as ever there was. And, as I said, I expect people that are perhaps just 100% in the Palestinian and the Hamas camp, who are, they're not going to ever agree that it wasn't justified. The people that are throwing me and that are confusing me are the people that are saying, well, was it really 40 beheaded babies? Because I heard maybe it was only 20. Or were they actually burned alive, or was it after they were killed? They're drawing these distinctions about this, horrific thing, this evil that was done, as if somehow there are degrees of it that make it less evil.
And there also seems to be this perspective of, well, if Israel's going to respond, they need to do it proportionally.
What does that mean?
Who came up with this idea? No, I'm sorry, it doesn't work that way.
What does that mean?
Yes.
What it mean, like let's define that term. Okay, 1,400 Israelis were slaughtered in horrible, horrific ways. They were tortured, maimed, all kinds of horrific things done. So what's the proportional response to that?
So we need to find the same amount of Palestinians, or it doesn't make any sense. Oh yeah, we're going to find the exact amount of women and children, and proportionally we will kill them and do it in a similar manner.
Which is exactly what Israel is trying not to do. I mean, that's why they give out the warnings before they strike. That's why they're trying to get the Gazans to move south out of the area that they're bombing. That's why they're trying to do this in a way that minimizes the impact on the civilian population. It's hard to do in a populous area, a densely packed area like Gaza.
2 million people.
You know, we're 2.5 weeks out from when this happened, and they still haven't gone in, even though, you know, you knew the seconds this happened, this was something like this was coming. So just, yeah, that floors me. And then the, I think AOC was one of the people who was talking about indiscriminate bombing. Indiscriminate bombing. Okay, well, what's discriminate bombing? I mean, how are you distinguishing that? To me, indiscriminate bombing would be just throwing bombs willy-nilly right and left, not worrying about who it's hitting, not worrying about if it's impacting civilians, rockets misfiring on your own people.
Isn't that what we're seeing? Exactly.
Right.
From Hamas and Hezbollah.
Whereas discriminate bombing would be targeting specific, you know, camps where the Hamas terrorists are known to be hiding, bunkers that they're known to be hiding in, areas that they're known to be hiding, storing their weapons, warning civilians to get out of the way before then. And yet we're still having these conversations. It's mind-boggling. But I don't know.
Well, we can ask Brad Slager about it.
I was going to say, we're going to come back and talk to Brad Slager about this situation, about the media's handling of it. He's going to have some insights for us on that. You're listening to News Talk STL 1019 94.1.
This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, 99.1 HD3 and newstalkstl.com. Mike Ferguson in the morning. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 meteorologist Leah Hill. Going to be a bit of a dreary day as we have increasing cloud cover and a few spot showers are possible. Temperatures will still rise to near 80 degrees and we'll start to see those rain chances increasing overnight to about 30%. Overnight lows reaching 66 and then tomorrow upper 70s, lower 80s. In fact, we're entering this stretch of unsettled weather that will last through Monday. That's your First Alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Leah Hill.
Fox News commentary.
An off-duty pilot is charged with attempted murder after allegedly trying to shut down the engines mid-flight. I'm Tommy Lahren. More next.
Hi, I'm Martha Stewart. Every year, more than 4 million pets enter shelters here in the United States. My friends at American Humane have been helping animals since 1877. The goal is to ensure that pets have a safe shelter, especially during natural disasters. Adopting a shelter pet allows shelters to help more animals awaiting care. Please consider adopting today and take some time to learn more about American Humane's other work at americanhumane.org.
Whether it's lavatory floor feces, farting dogs, crying babies, or hours-long delays followed by cancellations, the in-flight experience has really taken a dive. And now this. An off-duty Alaska Airlines pilot was charged with 83 counts of attempted murder after allegedly trying to shut down the engines mid-flight. This flight to San Francisco was diverted to Portland after this terrifying incident occurred. The flight's crew captain said this off-duty pilot was in the jump seat when he attempted to interfere with the engines. Now, luckily, the plane landed safely with no injuries, and the 44-year-old rogue pilot was promptly arrested. The motive for this is still unknown, but it can't be good. You know, between this, the ticket prices, and the service interruptions, I'd rather take my chances with a cross-country drive at this point. I'm Tommy Lahren.
St. Louis's new choice for conservative talk. Live and local.
I need to know what's going on in my city.
News Talk STL.
We all know the healthcare system's broken. It's not about you. It's about the code, the bill, the 7-minute appointment. Hi, it's Dr. Randy Tobler, and I've developed a better way that restores old-fashioned values with a holistic approach to your healthcare. That means affordable, available, no copay or deductible primary care. And with my 30-plus years as an OBGYN, there's added value for women and couples. Whether it's a new or nagging problem, you need a second look at a troubling diagnosis, or simply want a trusting, relationship-based healthcare experience, give us a look at Body of Health Direct Primary Care. Our mission is to provide exceptional, accessible, and truly affordable care where the focus is on you, not insurance denial and cookbook medicine experts. And with your membership, there's a number of perks, including hundreds of free meds, in-office ultrasound, common diagnostic tests, and more. Interested in seeing me or learning more about healthcare the way it ought to be? Schedule an appointment or a discovery call at bodyofhealth.com. That's bodyofhealth.com.
Hey, Tony Colombo here for Gutter Pros. When Christine and I bought our new house, we knew the gutters were an issue, and after meeting the Gutter Pros team, we knew that they were right for us. Gutter Pros is your all-in-one gutter service team that offers a variety of affordable solutions, and they even offer free estimates, so there's no cost to you to find out if they are right for your home, just like they were for ours. If you're having a problem with your gutters, contact the Gutter Pros now, because with Gutter Pros, water goes where they tell it to. Call them at 314-656-7195 or visit gutterpros.com.
St. Louis's place to talk. The American people have further lost faith in our governmental institutions.
People can decide what they want and how they want to live.
News Talk STL. News, analysis, opinion.
Bill O'Reilly here. Check out the O'Reilly Update this afternoon at 3:45. Right now, it's back to Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
There Stell goes again. Get me with the bumper music.
Little Leonard Skinner.
Can't not dance to that. Well, welcome back, folks. You are listening to the Mike Ferguson Morning Show on News Talk STL. Susie Moore filling in for Mike today. And one of the things that we've been really talking about, I mean, we talk about this all the time at Red State, is media malpractice, journalistic ethics or the lack thereof, how the media gets things wrong. Well, they really have outdone themselves in recent weeks, particularly regarding the Israel-Hamas conflict. And Brad Slager is one of my colleagues at Red State who writes a lot about media and their various antics, if you will. So we are pleased right now to be joined by Brad. Good morning, Mr. Brad.
How we doing out there in Arch City?
Oh, doing all right. Doing all right. How are things in Florida?
Just fine. We're just enjoying decent weather and sitting back and watching the media complex melt down, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, we write about it all the time because there's never a shortage of things to point out, like in terms of hypocrisy and just horrible journalisming. But they've really outdone themselves lately, haven't they?
Yeah, the way that they're covering this conflict in the Middle East between Israel and Palestine has just gone off the rails. I mean, this is, because I cover daily at Town Hall all the time at Red State. I'm kind of like the media antagonist for Town Hall media. And this has been just remarkably bad because, for instance, Oliver Darcy over at CNN, he's their media maven. And he was talking about the coverage of the non-hospital bombing and attempted to be a little critical, but at the same time, he has to be defensive of the industry. He can't be objective. So he said that in reporting on this story, the stakes couldn't be higher. This was so important. And yet he stopped right there because the way they reported on this with the stakes that high means that they failed that much. The way they covered this, the way they relied exclusively on the words of a terrorist organization has completely embarrassed the entire news industry.
Brad, do you think that I'm going to get kind of existential or philosophical right now for a minute, but do you think that some of this is driven by, I know it's driven by ideology. I mean, we that's kind of a given. But is some of this driven by the age or the youth, if you will, of the people who are now doing the vast majority of the reporting?
Yeah, I would say there's a contributing factor because what we've been seeing for the last few decades, and the reason that the media is in the condition that it's in today, is just because of the way they're matriculating through the industry. So look back at Watergate, where Woodward and Bernstein just inspired this new slew of journalists to rush into J school. Journalism before that used to be pretty much a blue collar job. It wasn't glamorous. It was, grinded out shoe leather reporting kind of stuff. And now all of a sudden we're going to take down the government. We're going to fix all the world's problems through our business.
Sure.
Those kids now, they're going into the industry without objectivity. by saying that. In your mind, if I'm gonna fix the world. Well, you're already starting out with a bias. Then.
Right. That's
They got
advocacy.
into the industry, and now those kids that got in, let's say in the late 70s and 80s, have moved up into editorial and publishing. And even the newer generation is even more liberal. And as we're seeing on college campuses today, just how entrenched socialism and leftist ideology is prevalent. Those kids are now going into the journalism industry. So the whole news organization is shifting further and further left each given year. And when they have this mindset of, well, we have to defend Palestine, we have to look at them from both sides and give their viewpoints, that's what's going to happen now in the reporting. So, it's definitely a valid point you make. And note this, too. We just went through a few years since January 6th of the press saying we don't need to do both sides because the Republicans operate from bad faith and lies and election denial. We don't have to give both sides. But when it comes to terrorists who are killing infants in their crib, they have to have equal time.
Yeah,
it's such a corrupted mindset.
Isn't that one of the key issues here? Is it's the selective both sidesing. Ostensibly, if you're going to be trying to promote objective journalism, you should be reporting on all sides, not necessarily taking up for sides, but just reporting on what their positions are and what the perspectives are. And we saw a move away from that. I guess because anything in the name of bashing Trump became the cause du jour, but we did see a move away from that and a sort of an unwillingness to look at the differing perspectives for a while. But now it's all about let's that makes me think about this. I just saw I think IDF kind of clapped back at this. I saw NPR saying we sit down with a Hamas spokesperson to get their side of things. Really? You're sitting down with a designated terrorist organization that just butchered 1,400 people, civilians, to get their take.
Well, this is just where the press begins. We saw Jake Tapper come out recently, and he's had some good days of reporting, but he also said following this errant report about the hospital that wasn't bombed by Israel, he actually said on the air, we don't have any reason not to believe Hamas on this story, which just
don't have any reason. What about just being genuinely skeptical and intellectually curious enough to make sure that you got more than one source telling you stuff?
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, it used to be always get a second source,
right.
Always make sure. Any of the reporting we saw about that, quote, bombing, none of it was really saying, now we only have this on us. Some of them say Palestinian authorities tell us, and then ... But they still put Israel bombs in the headline.
Yeah.
They still use photographs that were
500 dead.
Yeah, the numbers that they were fed by Hamas were just blasted for a day. And here's Tapper saying, why would we doubt them? It's like, well, how about this, Jake? They're a terrorist organization. How about this? They have years of experience feeding the media false information for their propaganda. This isn't your first day.
Right.
And yet here they are just running with spoon-fed talking points from a terrorist group. It was stunning to watch.
Talk to me a little bit about the correction, and I'm putting that in air quotes, sneer quotes, of that the New York Times made regarding this incident, because they did. It struck me more as mistakes were made and war is complicated.
Yeah, that's exactly the approach they took. Was okay, it was a fluid story, and we were trying to keep up with it, but the problems exist here. They didn't put it on the front page like they did their initial accusations.
Right. Yeah.
But also, look at the language they use. Errors were made. We unintentionally misled readers on specifics. They used every euphemism in the world except misinformation, which is their absolute favorite buzzword when it comes to anything else. If there's ever fake news out there, they're misleading the public. It's misinformation. But when they do it, oops, it was unintentional. We didn't mean to dissuade you from the truth. They just completely avoid their usual criticism when it comes to themselves. And that right there shows you the double standard that exists.
That's amazing. Yeah, it would have been better if they would have just said, look, we screwed up. We were in such a hurry to get this story out to you all. We didn't stop and check the facts the way we should have, and we're going to make sure that we don't keep doing that. But
yeah, it's like on my podcast I'm putting on Red State Today, I say one of the bigger flaws that we see in the press today is they're always in a rush to be the first. They're not in a rush to be correct.
You know that.
They want to break it.
You know that from our discussions at Red State, where it's like, wait, we want to get this up, but we want to make sure it's right.
Yeah, and that's the thing is when we are reporting on these stories at Red State and Town Hall elsewhere, yeah, we always pump the brakes and say, okay, let's make sure we get everything lined up correctly. Make sure it's sourced accurately. Let's make sure these are the facts and not something that's being fed to us by someone else. We actually practice journalism ethics, and they complain about us being the ones that disseminate misinformation. It's staggering to watch.
The gall of it all really is. It's irony at its finest. Well, Brad,
you want to see gall? We had the very next day, last Wednesday, New York Times, Washington Post, Reuters, and the BBC, all of which put out the fake information, had articles complaining about false information on social media.
That's right. They did.
Within a day. I mean, it was amazing to watch. I just kept compiling these. It's like I had one example. I thought that is just staggering. I've never seen this before. Wait, there's another. Hold on, there's another. It just kept coming.
Physician, heal
thyself. There's no mirrors.
Wow.
Hey, Brad, this is Stal Ponticus here. Just to piggyback on that thought for a moment, I saw a Gallup poll a couple days ago, and this shows how things have changed just in a generation. Because going back to the mid-'70s, when I was a college kid, the trust in media was 72%. Now in 2023, we're looking at a trust of 32%. So it's gone from 72% down to 32%, the amount of trust that people have in the media. We've got a real serious problem here. Thankfully, you guys are trustworthy.
Well, I actually covered that very thing, I think Friday in my column.
Okay.
And they hit some actual record numbers on this, because if you look at a chart over the years, they do this poll every year asking the public, what's your faith in the press? It's been on a downslide for decades, but they give people four choices. Trust them very much, trust them a bit, don't trust them much, or don't trust them at all. All of the positive reactions added up to 32%. The one category is don't trust the press at all, 39%.
Wow.
I mean, it is glaring how much the press is walking away from the media. I mean, from the public, and the public is saying, we're done with you guys. It's just getting worse, actually, amazingly enough.
Well, Brad, where can folks find your good journalism?
Well, thank you for that. Well, I'm daily over at townhall.com with my media column, but also just about daily at Red State. And I've got my twice weekly podcast, as I said, called Liable Sources, where I just go a little bit deeper into the media malpractice stories out there.
Fantastic. Well, Brad, thanks for coming on with us today. Really appreciate you talking about it with us.
Absolutely. Anytime.
All right. Folks, stick around. We got a few minutes left of the show. We're going to be back right here on News Talk STL 1019 94.1.
We give you news, analysis, opinion, and more. Only on News Talk STL. Get up. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Here's a great way to save money on your prescription medications. If you take Viagra or Cialis, we can give you a way to pay as little as $2 a pill. Compare that to prices as high as $60 per tablet. These pills work for men and women to improve their sexual performance. And now for the price of 2 or 3 pills, you can get nearly 100. There's no need to pay expensive prices for Viagra or Cialis. Call now with your prescription and pay as little as $2 a pill. We offer 24/7 service and always free delivery and confidential packaging. Change your life for the better and have fun. Call Pharmacy Shop 24/7 to get generic versions of Viagra or Cialis for as little as $2 a pill, plus free discreet shipping.
800-631-2030. 800-631-2030. 800-631-2030. That's 800-631-2030.
We are the NFHS. That stands for the National Federation of State High School Associations. But really, what we stand for together with the MSHSAA, are the 171,000 high school sports and performing arts students in Missouri. And so we stand. We stand for the runners, debate team members, and basketball players. We stand for their coaches, officials, and adjudicators. We stand for the drummers, football players, and actors. We stand for the golfers, singers, and swimmers. We stand as the national leader and advocate for these essential activities and all who participate in them and make them possible. Because it is our purpose to ensure that high school students get to play, perform, and compete together. To learn more about who we are and what we stand for, visit nfhs.org.
The Vic Porcelli Show.
Democrat Representative Sheila Jackson Lee. You know, she tries to look like this nice lady, right? Wait till you hear her berate one of her staff. That's tomorrow at 9:41.
Weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL.
Hello, morning people. Tony Colombo and Katie Fitzpatrick here.
Thanks for listening to Mike Ferguson in the morning here on News Talk STL. And don't forget to join us today at 2 for Colombo and Katie.
See you then.
Yes, indeed, folks. Thank you for listening to Mike Ferguson in the morning. Susie Moore filling in for him today. Stella on the Wheels of Steel there giving me some great bump music today, which I really appreciate.
You're welcome.
And I am about to make one Vic Porcelli really, really jealous. Do you want to know why?
Go ahead.
Because I'm about to break news on the air live. And he hates it because usually breaking news happens
At
right
11:01.
At 11:01, right when he's off the air. So he's going to be jealous of me. I have breaking news, folks. We have a report from Florida and Mike Ferguson's baseball status.
We do. The St. Louis A's and Mike's team lost to the Baltimore Crushers. Final score there was what was the score? I don't think he gave the score.
Oh,
he just mentioned that it was at JetBlue Stadium, which I believe is the spring training facility for the Boston Red Sox.
Wow.
Really nice stadium.
Fancy.
Yeah, Mr. Fancy Guy.
So the fact that they lost, though, does not mean that they are out of the tournament or anything.
Correct. Their record's 1-1, and they'll have 2 games today. They play Clearwater and Dayton today.
Oh, wow. Well, hopefully they can win those and continue on. I know that he's probably having a lot of fun doing that. And we're certainly having fun filling in for him, but we'll be glad when he's back, too. Mentioned baseball, of course. Texas Rangers beat the Houston Astros last night in Game 7 of that's the ALCS, correct?
That's correct.
And
so they move on to the
World Series. They move on to the World Series. And then Philadelphia and the Diamondbacks have one more game left.
Yes, they're tied at 3 games apiece. Okay. Diamondbacks won 5-1.
Yeah.
So Game 7 is tonight in Philadelphia.
Ooh.
So again, I think the home field advantage will play a part in the game, even though the Phillies lost last night.
Yeah.
And one of their best pitchers got knocked out. Nola was the starter, and I think he only made it through 4 innings. So I think the Phillies still have a good chance to win this.
Refresh my recollection because I'm terrible about this. Once a World Series is gone, I forget unless the Cardinals were in it.
Yeah.
Were the Phillies in it last year?
You're right. They were.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So maybe they'll be going back and it'll be Philly versus the
Texas Rangers.
Not the Astros. I think a lot of people were kind of glad to see the Astros knocked out.
I think you're right.
There's still there's a lot of bad blood in MLB about the Astros and their penchant for cheating.
Yes, I'm afraid so.
Yeah. Well, man, next year for the Cardinals, right?
Yeah.
A bright spot for me was Saturday because not only did Mizzou win their homecoming game against South Carolina, which puts them, I think it's 7-1. Either 6-1 or 7-1, and they're ranked 16th now. Definitely bowl eligible, so that's good. And Saturday night, got the privilege of going to the Enterprise Center and watching the Blues take on the Penguins.
Oh, very good.
And they won that game handily. It was a nice, fun game, good seats, great time.
Blues are off to a pretty good start here.
Yeah, they're showing some promise. Let's hope that holds up. It was a little disappointing for the Cardinals season this year, but hopefully the Blues will give us something to cheer about. And
I think Cardinals management realizes we've got to get some pitching.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah, they need something. They need something. Well, I mentioned Vic Porcelli earlier because I was just wanting to tease him. I don't know if he's listening right now or not. I know he's here. And he hates the fact that breaking news happens right after he gets off the air. It could happen this morning while he's on the air about the House GOP. They may have select another nominee. Not that that person for sure will get 217 votes on the floor, but that could happen while he is on the air. Another piece of breaking news real quick. Jenna Ellis is the fourth defendant who's decided to plead guilty in the Georgia, the Fulton indictment case.
Okay.
So the Fannie Willis is peeling them off.
Huh.
It's interesting to see how that's all going to play
Did you have
out.
any thoughts on that? Because I know Sidney Powell was the one along with Cheesebro. Those were the first two. And mainstream media made it sound as though, well, they flipped. And I didn't really see it quite that way because they agreed to certain items, including a fine and a letter to the folks in Georgia apologizing, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a little unclear to me what exactly what testimony they might have that could somehow, come back on and
incriminate
Trump or any of the others that are still in the case.
Mhm.
I guess we'll have to see how that plays out. And I haven't gone and looked at the pleadings lately just to see what the latest is. But so, bit by bit, there were 19 defendants. Now they've peeled off 4.
Mhm.
So I think we'll see some more of that. But how that'll all shake out in the end, who knows? There's certainly no shortage of things to talk about as far as Donald Trump and his legal woes, and everything that they're throwing at him to try and keep him from becoming the GOP nominee or the 47th president. So.
And he's still dominating the polls.
He is. He absolutely is. This is a very interesting race to watch and follow. And of course, we'll be talking about it here on News Talk STL. We'll be writing about it at Red State. We've got a debate coming up in another week or so down in Miami. My managing editor, Jen Van Laar, will be there for Salem Media, and we'll be helping with that. So we'll be covering that for sure too. So no shortage of things to talk about. No shortage of things to follow. We appreciate you tuning in, folks. You've been listening to the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show on News Talk STL. Susie Moore filling in for him. I will be back again on Thursday and then again next Monday to help us wait out Mike's baseball adventures. And appreciate you tuning in. Listening to News Talk STL 1019 94.1.
Thanks for joining us on this Tuesday morning, and welcome home to News Talk STL.
So many ways to listen to News Talk STL.
Come join the conversation.
Enable our Alexa skill. Hey, Alexa, play News Talk STL.
Welcome to News Talk STL, conservative talk radio for St. Louis.
Always streaming at newstalkstl.com or on your radio at 1019, 94.1 and 99.1 HD3. News Talk STL. News, analysis, and opinion. Welcome home.
School choice is an idea whose time has come. It's flourishing in many states, just not in Missouri. Take charter schools, a great alternative for parents whose kids may be trapped in a failing school district. But charter schools are currently only available to families in just 3 of 520 school districts: Kansas City, the city of St. Louis, and Normandy.